Everybody, welcome. This is going to be a really fun evening. We're in the final stages of qualification for the COD League Rebirth Resurgence. And, well, we were trying to bring all the action from start to finish in the qualification stage, but a couple of things popped up for a lot of us, so we're going to be doing just the final moments. My whole shit. With me, I've got Proper. It's going to be a fun night. I really do mean that. We've got Group E to start off the evening. It's going to be 4 rounds worth of gameplay. Cumulative scores will send the top 4 teams into the semis, and then we'll reset the group and do the same thing for Group F. So before we get too much into the style of what the format is, Proper, how are you?
I'm doing great, Alan. I mean, we talked about just how hype we were, just how much fun this is all going to end up being. You and I have watched a lot of Warzone in recency ever since its inception quite some time ago. But now with Rebirth, this kind of gives everybody what they've been looking for. And for me personally, when it comes down to Call of Duty as a Battle Royale, we finally get to see what the top end of the competition looks like pitted up against each other in such a highly contested game mode.
Yeah, I mean, we had the things last year where it was like little drop-ins every now and again, the kind of Warzone weekend starters for some of the CDL teams, but this is the first time that we'll actually have an open community forum to be able to participate against the Call of Duty League teams themselves. So really, really a lot of fun things on board for us. But there was a whole qualification process had to go through just to get to this point, let alone the main broadcast that'll be coming up next weekend. So to kind of refrain over what had happened in the past and making sure we know exactly how we got here, we've got the format graphic ready to go to kind of break down how exactly our teams tonight have gotten to this point. So hopefully we could kind of take a look at them in more detail throughout the evening, but it all started with an open quads playlist where you had to submit your 10 best performances for scoring. That was way back in the beginning of April, and the top 40 teams would then be deciphered into 4 different groups consisting of 10 teams each. The top 5 from each of those groups are the conglomeration of what we have here this evening proper. 10 teams in Group E, 10 teams in Group F. But because there are 12 teams in total waiting in the semis, instead of taking the top 5 as we had all the way throughout this last week, we'll only be taking the top going into next weekend.
Yeah, and the reason being, obviously, you know, there are 12 CDL teams. We're going to end up splitting those guys up into each one of where you see semi A and B. That's going to be very interesting to be able to see how these top 4 squads will be able to place themselves not only against each other for a lot of Warzone competitors out there, but also against our CDL pros. That's where everything is going to be rather spicy, indeed. I mean, the top 4 aggregated scores, obviously, we are using a very familiar score system to you and I and everybody at home, where each kill obviously equals a point, and then you do get that 2 times multiplier you see at the bottom of your screen for that double score, and then second and third place get that 1.5 times multiplier. 4th through 10th, they get absolutely zilch, nada. So you definitely want to be not only slaying out the lobby while you are trying to get towards the center, you also want to be playing rather smart and wise to make sure you give your best effort to be able to win these modes.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I mean, obviously, Rebirth has been a huge focus. I think a lot of people are kind of rejoicing over the quick action comparatively to Caldera, where the action is typically just much slower. And so I think the timing of this is actually really, really well done here for the CDL. And for like a pilot, when it comes down to how do we possibly open up the scheme of competitive Warzone. We won't just have the World Series of Warzone where you kind of invite all of your teams or your Twitch rivals, which is the epitome of just, you know, obviously going and inviting teams to participate. This will be a really interesting kind of way to look at the community at large and be able to evaluate, is this the best overall opportunity to get people involved competitively? So yeah, it'd be really, really fun, I think, just to kind of see with the players that we have. I think that's the biggest thing about this opening group. Looking through some of the players that we were kind of seeing in the rosters, didn't recognize many or any of them in a lot of cases. The second group this evening showcases a lot of top Warzone competitors and creators over the course of the last couple of years. But this opener, I think this is the epitome of why this format is kind of cool. We get to see brand new players for the large majority of which this is their first real good taste at competitive, not just Rebirth, but competitive Warzone in full.
Yeah, I mean, this is the place where you're going to be able to make a name for yourself, right? I mean, not only being able to make it far enough to be able to place yourself inside semifinals, but to be able to showcase not only your talents and abilities of playing this very contested game mode of Rebirth on the island, but also going up against likely talent. And then when you can end up, you know, pitting up against what you are seeing here today in this very first group, then you can almost get yourself a little bit of a fan base, and you can end up showcasing your talents and abilities later on down the road. This is where things get really, really interesting for me personally, because, I mean, every single time I wake up in the morning, I always like to put on a different stream, whether it's a different game or whether it's Warzone. I get to meet a lot of different people within the community. It's such a broad base of a community is Warzone, and there's a lot of talent out there. I'm looking forward to find some more streams to be able to tune into.
And just for what it's worth, kind of looking over some of the top teams thus far and what they were able to do throughout the week, it looks like the general average score is sitting in the high 30s, is what you're looking for by lobby for the most part. High 20s, low 30s on an average will get you into a pretty solid spot. But we've seen some scores as high as 60 total points put together in one single game. That was a conglomeration of about 30 total, exactly 30 kills. What am I doing? 30 kills for first times the two gets you to that 60. So that was probably the most impressive game that we've seen so far. That was from Vera, Legit, Fuel, and Clumsy, so a team that I think a lot of people would be familiar with, but it looks like generally the average as far as what you're looking for to get into a pretty comfortable position here by lobby is somewhere in the high 20s, low 30s. You can put together an average like that, you're probably going to be good to go. Because the thing about this, as we mentioned, is it's 4 total lobbies, but instead of the top 5 teams by cumulative score, it's only the top 4. So just getting that one secured win with a high kill total may not necessarily get you a guarantee to jump on in. I'm looking at a couple of results from the last week where there is a team that finished 3rd, but only had, I think, 10 total kills, and that was their highest overall lobby. Only gave them 18 points. So it's top 3 placement. You need to have it. But I think you also need to be hunting for probably close to 15 to 20 kills on those top 3 finishes if you want to put together a solid total.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to end up seeing almost like shades of different battle royales out there rather than, you know, just kill-hungry Warzone, kill racing tournaments, right? Is because you're going to be putting yourself in positions, obviously, to be able to be in that final zone, making sure that all of your teammates obviously stay alive so you can then come back if you do fall. Yeah. But even more so than that, you want to be able to find the right kills, to find better positioning. You don't want to be just red dot chasing all throughout all the incarnations of the different buildings that we have at our disposal here on Rebirth Island. You want to be able to play as safely as possible while also getting those kill tallies. Consistency is going to be the name of the game and the key to success, in my opinion, to be able to find those placings, to be a top 4 player out of these groups.
Absolutely. And, you know, this opening group will be a really good feel, I think, for, you know, where are we exactly at as far as caliber is concerned for our top 20 teams that we have in this qualification stage. But we will really get a true test, I think, for Group F, because there are a handful of full quads in there that I think will be looking at themselves saying, man, I really wish we could have been put in one of those opening groups to be in this first qualification group, because there's some heavy hitters that are going to be probably eliminated, I imagine, before they can even see the semifinals next weekend, which I think is appropriate while we're waiting for the first lobby to start, which is coming soon here. Next weekend, the Call of Duty League YouTube will be broadcasting both semis and the finals on the 24th, so definitely make sure you mark your calendars for that. But we drop on into our first overall lobby, see what we get here. And I think just more importantly, you know, what are the loadouts going to look like for a lot of these teams, and maybe even more so, where exactly are the preferred drop spots off the rip, just to make sure you can survive through the first 30 seconds of this chaos.
I'm glad that you bring up just the overall argument of like what are the loadouts going to be looking like, because anything goes. So, you know, the website was very direct in saying that we want to make this as accessible as possible for as many different players as possible. So anything goes. Every single weapon is going to be at your disposal. You can expect a lot of Swiss snipers. You can expect a lot of Bren LMGs, a lot of MP40s. You can end up breaking out the PP Bison off the rip as well.
So we're dropping in with Team Huge. This is Taz, Medley, Apex, and Critics. Taking this STG. Control Center, and the comms coming through already. And the thing, too, about this, you know, when you're looking at Rebirth, and you're looking at 10 total quads, you know, there definitely is the ability to stay pretty safe off a lot of these drops. I think that the question is, you know, do you want to get to a position to where you can go for high density areas where you can turn it into, again, I mean, look at the cash they've already got. I mean, already amazing amounts, already getting an opening loadout in the first 10 seconds. So, you know, this is exactly what you want. And with cluster strikes and airstrikes already being called, now you even have a little bit of information here off this UAV of where exactly the next couple opponents might be for you.
Yeah, and again, as we swap our perspectives, you're going to get a lot of good cash off the rip if you're not going to be contested. The argument's always going to be coming through. Do you end up wanting to take these early engagements? I would mostly argue yes, to be able to get a lot of early kills before rotating in. That's exactly what we have on our screen.
This is Apili here with Hex Nation, and they have got a really good lockdown on a team that was trying to call in the loadout early, kind of denying the initial drop crates. And with cluster strikes coming down, this is a great opportunity to just use this high ground advantage as a way to move forward and essentially just isolate, and boy, have they. That's 2 down already. The third will also drop, so if they can actually get a full squad wipe here, this would be great. And, well, wouldn't you know it, that it is team wipe already into the mix. That was a very quick engagement coming out for Hex Nation.
And clean at that, right? I mean, you can see just on the bottom left of your screen, all the UI, everybody's shields, everybody health just staying right up in tip-top shape. That's exactly what you want to see from an early engagement, especially all the way in the outskirts of the map, right, Alan? So that way you can at least take these isolated engagements. Don't worry about getting third-partied. Make sure that you at least have one more player pushing up forward, and even more so than that, you can end up looking forward to make sure that you can rotate in, maybe find your next engagement, if not play safe, knowing that you have some early kill points.
So a solid team wipe in the mix. And it looks like they're happy with it. All right, we got the kills. Let's just hang out, see where the next circle may exactly pull us to, which is another, interesting kind of conversation comparing Rebirth to everything else. As much as the circle definitely commits to your focus, it doesn't punish nearly as much as the other two. So I think the ability to gatekeep, not nearly as high as other, forms of Warzone that we've had, whether it's Verdansk or Caldera. And we jump back over to Medley's perspective as they're still in a position where they're under manhunt for a while here, and they were just coming out of a fight, and you can actually see Taz is kind of still hindered and damaged, but the fight back is coming through. That's an elimination onto Harlow, which, as we take a look to see what team he may be on real quickly, that is actually just Team Harlow. This is him, Bunker, Godly Motions, and Simba. So that's the team that's currently in engagement here with Medley and the huge team.
Yeah, just bunkered up, trying to at least play this as safe as possible. Finally, Taz is going to be able to get those armor plates, get themselves back up to full. But you can see that Medley doesn't have any armor plates in their reserve, and still being hunted right now with a very close armor or threat detector. They're also going to be spotted out from a snapshot grenade. It's just about anchoring these positions. You can see that they have at least 2 players in 2 separate buildings trying to at least hold the space for now. Could actually end up turning the hunt back into the hunter role, if you will, knowing that it's at least coming right around the corner.
Yeah, and this is essentially just Medley on his lonesome right now. Any kills would be good, though. And he's actually going to push out in towards this. Bold call. And as he gets spotted, he will definitely reconsider. So right back over to cover. And honestly, at the moment, this is kind of a product of the early drop that we had seen. The rest of his teammates are all over the map at the moment, just kind of looking for individual kills. And this is another kind of interesting strategy. We see this a lot, obviously, with the more traditional Warzone sense where, hey, we're looted, we can just go and individually find kills. But even more so in Rebirth, where you're in a position where you just immediately drop back in. As long as one player stays safe, obviously, you have the ability to just continue to try to reap and farm kills. And that looks like a strategy that Huge is trying to pull here as a squad.
Well, here comes the push. Finally, snapshot grenade previously, but they knew that they were still stuck down here. Ends up coming into a whole triple challenge, and it's going to be Nofo that ends up taking down Medley, going to reap the benefits finally from that reward. As the zone we'll finally see is still pulling further north and east, but as you said, it's not exactly going to be punishing, not any moments too soon, I would say, but as we swap our perspectives again, we finally find ourselves in a team that is not exactly in a comfortable position. 2 players down so far until he has to hold the line.
Snapshot not going to get anything here, but it is back with Hex Nation, the team that we were watching from before. A couple of the teammates will be able to parachute back in, it looks like, without too much cause for concern. And the other interesting thing about this, too, is as you get deeper and deeper into this lobby, how much security can you actually put over the top of these neutral loadout drops? Because that's what everyone's going to be gunning for, and that's exactly what's currently happening. Building up top, good armor break onto the first, letting his teammate glide right back on in, and that's going to be another couple of kills that get tallied up. This has been a really solid strategy from Hex Nation here to start.
And you saw Gustav and Romano all just came flying back in thanks to 2 teammates of Ray and Apili just staying alive. And now they're able to at least pick up the loadouts of fallen adversaries. And yeah, again, now you're seeing just the opposite side. You can stay alive. You can end up at least coming back into the mix. But when you're locked up in the top side of buildings like this, you are just clay pigeons in the sky for some players, just getting them incredibly weak. Can't find any further kill points, but still, such a superior position on top of this building.
And just guarding over these loadout drops. It's been really, really well maneuvered, honestly speaking, for Hex Nation. Kills have been maybe a little less than convincing, but for the most part, positionally, you can't really be upset about where you're at right now. Especially for Apili in particular. just kind of shouldering over the top of this ledge, watching to see if anyone will cross underneath. But it's a pretty solid base location to set yourself up with. However, they are being contested. That will obviously be recognized as a teammate will fall on the lower levels of this Nova 6 factory. Romanox just below. And there we go. There's nades to kind of commit to this fight. Stim shot on the way through, looking to find a way to slide and break some cameras. Goes to the prone position, but can't get the elimination. Romanov there to at least be able to trade at least one back. But this is a dangerous situation because now the only player that's left is Ray. And Hex Nation is in a bit of a problematic spot here when it comes to just surviving through the mix. There's still 9 total squads that are available to continue to play through this lobby.
Yeah, we've only saw that one team drop, and that was all the way at the beginning, so still have isolated players still staying alive, at least trying to hold the line, make sure that their teammates can at least come back, and now it's Ray all the way at the top of this building trying to, again, play the superior positioning. They were on the edge of zone as things continue to pull further northeast over towards that harbor location, but because Ray was doing an adept job at making sure that the high ground was being maintained, that means that their teammates should be coming back as a fire sale, starts to come all the way through. But the biggest question of it all, can you get back down safely, at least get yourself a loadout? Any sort of semblance of weaponry would be fantastic.
Yep. And for the most part, weapons are okay, but armor and ammunition is a different story, at least from Apili's perspective. We go over to Grev, as this is just Team Grev & Co. playing with Luxecution Prayers and Tyranics. They're in a nice position here at the top, but they will have to rotate in the next 40 seconds as the circle will pretty much take the entirety of this rooftop out of play. But it looks like there may be a corner over towards where this water fountain is, which is looks like exactly what Grev is looking for right now. It's like, can he possibly get over to this position? But he is also trying to snipe, and as you would figure, ammunition is not exactly bountiful with this weapon combo. So decisions have to be made here as far as how exactly you want to rotate in the next 40.
They have eyes on players that are just further east of their position as well. So, I mean, dealing with these players that are on more of less the slower side of the gas, they're probably on the faster side when it starts closing all the way in, would be at least a guarantee that the next rotation won't be as nearly as contested. You still see 9 squads remaining. You want to try to deal with players that are still further out than you are as the zone starts closing in just about now. This is going to be a very scary position. It looks like they want to take the battle to them while also at least exchanging some cash, make sure that their teams can at least get themselves some UAVs, get some insight as where some of these players are located at.
Ooh, we go over to Hex Nation, and it is just Apili, last one left. I was about to say, this is the circle where we will definitely start to see those squad numbers fade just a touch. Apili just trying to stay alive for another 20 seconds, but is not going to be able to. So it's an 8th place finish, or 9th place finish, sorry, pardon me, for Hex Nation after what was a really solid start. I mean, those kills are pretty solid. It looked like they had, well, you can do the math right there, 13 in total, which is really pretty solid, honestly speaking, for the early game. Just could not quite rotate as they were fighting for the center of the circle. So we go over to Rumble. This is Devil, Johnny, and Luca, who's a part of this squad. And they're also kind of in a bit of a problematic position trying to rotate in as the circle forces them further and further in.
And trying to play the edge of the gas is a very scary game. When you know that you're going to have to be taking these engagements, at least getting yourself closer. Self-revive kit finally will be bought back there from Rubble. You know that they have the high ground at least to be weary of, but as the rotations start coming through, you also have communication coming through that there are enemies that are being called all the way in. Team shots need to be here to maybe deal with this player. Shots are at least going to be there for the time being, and yeah, as you're dropping in, that armor is definitely going to be at least keeping yourself safe, but that player is at least skating on by for now. But the question still exists here, Alan. How are you going to rotate in knowing that you're going to have so many more teams ahead of you?
Well, the good news is they got the kind of slow side of the circle here, and it looks like there is a teammate in Devo who's pushed up towards that kind of close wall on these ramps, which is really a pretty solid position. You know for a fact that no one's going to be behind you. But there is still some cause for concern when it comes to this corner of the rooftop, which it does not look that they hold. And you could continue to see people continue to ping up onto this water tower. So many different teams that we've seen have been watching towards this location. So definitely a squad somewhere up there for the time being. But the more important thing about this is, you know, do you play for the kills at this position or do you play for positioning? Because you're in a really solid spot just to walk into the next circle and just avoid this position up top, which looks like it was Grev who was up in that position for a time. Or at least one of his teammates. It's Prayers, tries to get around the corner, but as he falls, the rest of his teammate will not be able to get back into play. That will be an 8th place finish for Grev & Co. So now the water tower's out of the picture. What comes next, I think, is the big question.
Swap perspectives over towards Faded and their team. Or, again, on a slower side of the gas ring. They have a lot of this building to play with and a lot of different windows to see different enemies trying to rotate in. They are healthy. They have a lot of armor, at least in their back pocket, but the biggest consideration, again, comes down to the ammo. You can see in the bottom right side of your screen, Faded playing along with just one magazine in their automaton. Let's have at least a Type 100 in their back pocket if things get a little bit more close quartery, and that seems to be the call. At least bring things to the tree line, see if they can find some more kills rotating on in.
Again, the biggest thing about this is we're looking for top 3. That is where the first multiplier comes. 1.5 times. Oh, gunfight outside the hut. Gets styled on, and that's actually another full wipe, I believe, that comes out of the mix. Yeah, the rest of his teammates falling kind of instantaneously. So Team Faded will be gone. But you hear them kind of calling it, saying, oh, well, we're not out of it yet, but it's definitely not comfortable positioning after the first map. And now we take a look over at Hex Nation. Is Apili actually still alive? Hard to see there for a moment. We're into our top 3. Now top 2. It's actually a 1v1. As it looks like we're just waiting to see whose perspective is still alive. The action happens so quickly. And we'll see it from at least one of their teammates' perspectives here. It's this hybrid, one of the last players left, and yeah, it's a 1v1 here as the circle's going to actually rotate around the back. Good read, and how about it? Jackal takes out Simba for the final kill as we see it from hybrid's perspective, and that'll be a really solid start. I mean, just getting into the top 3 in the first place is what you're looking for, but there were a number of teams that finished just on the outside of the top 3 that looked like they tallied up a handful of eliminations, double digits at least.
Yeah, we were talking about that, specifically about Apili and Co., right? And when we ended up seeing them find a lot of early engagements, putting themselves closer and closer towards the zone as it was just bringing on itself in. But even still than that, when you do find yourself a lot of good kills, you can find yourself consistency of just playing the slower side of the zone. If you can get that information early, you get the luck of the draw early. When you are dropping off the ship, then you can at least put yourself in a position to at least maybe find yourself rotational fights to be able to get yourself those kills eventually. Jackal seemed to be able to do that. Last player alive in the entire lobby, and what's even funnier than that, their team name is Jackal, gets carried for this time around. Jackal ends up being the last player alive and ends up securing at least the dub. 2 times multiplier for all those kills we couldn't see because of the camera, but still, I can only imagine, going to be a nice comfort boost for the later games to come.
That team of 4 is Jackal, Johnny Bro, Drifts, and Slimy Dookie. What a name. What a guy that Slimy Dookie
I'll be saying
is.
that 5 times fast tonight. No, I won't.
Will you?
Nope. No, I will not.
I won't be. If anything, it's going to keep me up later tonight thinking of what that would even...
The
I don't want to know.
nightmares.
I don't even want to know what that looks like. So I think I'm really going to be curious here because for Apili's team, a lot of good solid kills at the beginning. So the same was for Medley and Co. But finishing 10th and somewhere in the top 8, I believe, is where Hex Nation finished off at. I'll be curious to see, what they were able to do to keep the differential low. Because honestly speaking, you look at some of the teams that finished in the top 5, or all the teams that finished in the top 5 over the last 2 days, or last 4 days rather. All the top 5 teams have finished top 3 at least twice. So there's another buffer that gets kind of created here when we're dealing with 10 quads inside of a Rebirth lobby. With the current format only giving the multiplier to the top 3, you essentially have to get sizable kills and a top 3 finish at least in half of the lobbies if you want to have a fighting chance to get into that top 4. So not a great start, but if you're at least able to tally up a lot of kills and miss that top 3, you feel okay about your opportunities to still turn around the next 3 lobbies to get good finishes in.
Yeah, I would say that is the safety net, right? I mean, if you can walk away with about 15, 18 kills, but you'd finish outside the top 5, more power to you, because, I mean, you're still guaranteeing yourself a sufficient amount of points, but as you already said, we're only doing 4 drops here. At least half of them have to have a 1.5 multiplier at the very least to at least guarantee yourself a top 4 finish at the end of the group stage. You finish outside the top 4, then your run ends right here. If you can walk away with the dub, that's going to be the biggest safety net of them all. You have that little bit extra of a buffer going into these later matches, which all Jackal and Co. will definitely be feeling comfort going into the later drops.
Well, apparently, while we were in the middle of lobby number 1, there was a small update that did kind of grace us. So, with that in mind, it looks like the admins are going to let the players take just a brief pause, just as they get themselves out of game, get the quick edit, come back in, be ready to go. So we will also do the same, not updating our game, but take the same break that they are. So that's lobby number 1 of 4 here for Group E. Again, top 4 make it to the semifinals next week. And, well, we'll step away for just a brief moment, and we'll come back with lobby number 2 right after this. Welcome back, everybody. The update put a little bit of a brief pause into our normal workflow here, but looks like everyone's just about ready to go. And as we saw it kind of from multiple POVs, Jackal's team did secure the win in lobby number 1. And even though the team name here proper is Jackal Gets Carried, he put together 9 kills and carried the rest of the team. They finished with a 40-point first match out. Really solid start for Jackal's team.
Right? Because it's one of those things where we hopped in so late. I mean, everything was just all team fight, people trying to at least get the upper hand on another team fight, and we ended up in a 1v1. But where Jackal was coming from, it felt like that they had the superior positioning for what felt like every single ring pull there until the very end. And it's a little bit of a luck of draw, you know, a little bit of RNG is obviously going to be taking in place wherever that ring is starting to pull all the way in too, but they were still finding themselves a lot of good gunfights. They were still keeping all the loot up, all the plates, all the ammo in their back pocket as well. They were playing smart, so it's one of those things that you want to at least find that consistency early. Doesn't mean that you have to win every single drop. I mean, if you do that, hey, more power to you, but consistency with placing yourself in the top 4, top 5 with an abundance of kills, we've already set that to be a key to victory, if you will, for Jackal & Co.
Yeah, you know, just one of those things, too. Like, we were talking about this when we were kind of just on the little wait screen for a while. It was just like, how did we go from top 7 to 1v1 in literally 30 seconds?
Rebirth,
so,
baby.
You know, it's just one of those things, man. We'll see how it all unfolds. We jump on board with Jackal, who did clutch up that 1v1. Seeing the information on the outside, there's a quick little peek for him. And the full squad lands pretty nicely right outside Chem. And, well, I mean, hey, again, you're never in a shortage of cash, so if you're able to get yourself into a proximal location to a buy station, early loadout drop turns into maybe early kills, and let's see. I mean, I think the biggest thing kind of what we learned from the first lobby here is even on a pretty poor early drop from Hex Nation, they still tallied 13 total kills, which is really solid. So, who knows? You survive a little bit longer, you're able to turn that into a 20-plus point game, even though you didn't finish the top 3. So, safe drop is obviously preferred when it comes to getting your weapon loadout as fast as possible.
I got 90 AR. I'm chilling. I don't have plates.
Always feels like that you're going to at least guarantee yourself this very early loadout drop. Maybe some other places are going to be contested until that one loadout drop does come all the way through. But at least securing your own, securing yourself at least an abundance of ammo. That seems to be the name of the game for a lot of these players, taking these isolated drops early. Then comes the part 2 of the laundry list, is finding yourself rotational battles. Make sure that you not only maintain a superior position, make sure you get some early kill points as well. That seems to be the name of the game. They do see players on the opposite building trying to go for their own loadout drop. Question is, how long do you hold the trigger discipline? Wait for one player to drop. Team shot should be coming through, and that player gets absolutely eviscerated.
Just gets down, though. Nothing too immediate. But we jump over to Obey's POV. Trying to see exactly what they had done in their first lobby. Well, I mean, we'll find out here in a moment because he's in the middle of a fight, and, well, as Obey will drop, you've got a couple of the members on the squad that are still trying to work their way down after being eliminated earlier. So, problematic situations here for Obey and Co. as they are kind of under threat of possibly finishing in 10th with no kills.
Yeah, down here at the factory seems to be a little bit more of a contested drop, but luckily enough stayed alive for that last second for Ironside to at least come back in. And you can see Choke is also coming back in as well. Obey is about to be falling back in at the same moment of time. And it just seems to be the name of the game. You know, you just make sure that everybody at least has one player playing safe enough to at least get these respawns coming back through. But the question is still going to be presenting itself for Obey and Co. You got to somehow get back down towards the loadout. You got to somehow get yourself some semblance of a loadout and be able to at least get yourself some kill points. You're not going to make it to the end zone like this.
Yeah, and just for what it's worth, at least the early report was Obey's team finished 3rd in the opening lobby, but did not tally a lot of eliminations. Only got to 19.5 total points. Again, for reference, the team that finished 9th had 13 total kills. So it was about an even kill differential between 9th and 3rd. So getting these early kills is definitely important. But we're on towards Huge's team, Huge's POV. They finished 7th in their opener. And for Medley's POV in particular for this squad, pretty good start for them. 2 individual kills thus far. Obviously, there was a couple of team kills in the feed as well. So pretty solid start. Just keep yourself alive. Hopefully you can start eliminating some full squads here in a moment.
Yeah, no discretion at all. Medley just breaks on towards the bathroom. No knocks required. Just finds themselves another kill. Again, we are on here with Team Huge. Medley and Co. just finding themselves a little bit of security inside of this this multi-story building. And again, it's all just about finding yourself more and more kills. And you hear the pop-off from Apex in the background. He found himself double beatdowns and will be able to at least tally up more kills to boot. This is a very good position early for Medley & Co.
And you kind of heard it, actually, for a moment there when we were on, who were we on board with? Obey's POV, where he's talking like this whole thing has to be about quick rotations. You know, work from building to building, get yourself into a solid position to make your step forward, and that looks like that is exactly what's being kind of understood here. As you have a lot of teams trying to make their way over towards the main prison block. Faded on screen. Not a great opening to this switching of perspectives, kind of caught into the kitchen. And it looks like this is going to be probably one of our biggest hotspots as we start to rotate across the middle of the island, where it looks like, for the most part, the circle is trying to push towards. So, we'll see. Over to Bunker Cone's POV. 1v1 just outside on the outer edges of the circle, but still plenty of space to work with here through the docks building.
This is going to be Harlow and Co. on board with Bunker, under a lot of pressure, just trying to reposition themselves. They have no armor plates in reserve. This is probably the scarier spot of it all. They're still waiting for Harlow to get called back in, though it's not like Simba and Godly Motions are in any better position. You can see that they're also incredibly weak. Bunker trying to find yet another reposition on top of the ship, finds themselves another player. You at least slip one armor plate in towards their chest, but even still, Alan, it's not exactly a great spot to be in. They are in the ring. That is at least some semblance of security, but you got to battle out from this position.
Yeah, and it looks like there's a team inside of the boat, and yeah, it's Jackal who's right above them. Jackal independently, though. The rest of Jackal's team is kind of in and around the lower areas. And it looks like they've kind of ran into each other unexpectedly. Precision airstrike going to be called. Jackal likely going to be just playing for his life while he's waiting for a teammate to redeploy in the next 25. And, well, obviously you've got a teammate that's, I believe, still down on the ground. Good pop-up, though. Gets up to the high ground. A couple of good tags come through. The problem is you lose another teammate, and now you have to take a fight up close to personal. Armor gets broken. The down will be secured, plus the kill. And you've got plenty of armor plates here to get yourself back to full.
Yeah, and then that's exactly what you needed if you are a Jackal. You found yourself at least an isolated gunfight. You found the kill, and most importantly, you're in such a great spot to watch all of these players from trying to rotate all the way through, but nobody was watching the flank. Up top, there seemed to have been another player that was able to slip the net, get all the way back in. Drifts will be there at least to collect the trade, but even more so than that, Jackal might be able to have an easy entry to get back into the boat to be able to get some of their fallen loot.
So Faded back in as we jump over to his team's POV. 3 kills independently for Faded, but needs a weapon. So he goes over to his squad mate in Psycho, who has been able to actually do pretty well through the decom. And remember, as we mentioned kind of at the top of the broadcast, all weapons are allowed. No restrictions in any form for this iteration of the Rebirth Resurgence. So that rocket launcher could come into play. I'm just going to throw that out there. But it's an SDG for now with no ARs. We continue to hop back and forth here as we go in towards Medley's POV. Stim shot called. Player right in front. Easy knock. Another player on the corner. Solid read, but can't fully track. And the trade will be there for their opponents, really, I should say. I was going to say the trade should be there for Taz, but it looks like Taz is actually on a different level. So he's not actually able to get down to help out his squad mate whatsoever. And that will be a pretty dire situation. Taz on 8 individual kills. This is one of those lobbies that you really want to get towards the top 3, and we still have not lost a single full squad yet.
And they're already up to 17 kills, keep in mind you, Alan. So this is a great spot to be at. You're towards at least the upcoming ring pole. Ring 3 is going to be closing on in, but inside this factory, you know you're going to continuously be contested. Up on the high ground, just immediately going to find themselves another gunfight, but we're going to lose that from Taz's perspective. And it seems like they ended up losing that as soon as Medley does get brought back in towards Rebirth, but should at least be more teammates in there for Medley & Co. to be able to clean up on all of those kills, but Apex tries to take the challenge. They go down, and Medley's going to go to the complete opposite side of the map, does not want any piece of that engagement.
Yeah, but the problem about this is that you have no idea what's over there, so you're just kind of hoping you can find a safe area to land and keep your life. Over to Apilli and Hex Nation. We saw a lot of them in the last lobby, and they were able to tally a lot of eliminations, just not really a great placement overall. This one at the moment, it looks like Apilli's been mostly playing support for his team because not a lot of kills, even though he's gotten what looked to be a lot of damage in that last gunfight. But you get a look at the bounty that's nearby, and you say, okay, we still have some pretty good work here over through block. And obviously, you just don't 100% always know where players and teams are coming from on these multiple levels, but it looks like they've done a pretty solid job to at least eliminate another player in the front of them and still hold this ground for now. But this is the problem. You just never know if there's more teams coming through and what buildings or doorways they might be hiding in. But the chaos looks like largely it's working out okay for X Nation. Good kills coming for.
Yeah, they do lose at least one player. Foley gets redeployed just with about 20 seconds remaining for that redeploy system before it goes all the way down. So if you do end up Foley being eliminated here, it's not the end of the world, but how do you re-enter yourself here inside of the prison block? Again, you already talked about it with all these different cells, with all these different corridors and hallways, the levels, good lord. Who knows how many other players could be just locked in towards one of these very finite positions. So Apelli, Romano, they need to continue to hold the line, at least as munitions box, get themselves some ammo, get themselves some of those lethals and tacticals back in favor. But the gunfight's going on in the opposite hallway. They're going to be able to at least isolate one more player, but Romano's going to end up going down. So that's going to be the immediate call for Apelli to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, got to try to just do what you can from this perspective. They just missed out on the ability to get that last redeploy as the final circle starts to kind of creep inwards. Over to Rumble and Team Underrated. They had a 6th place finish in their opening lobby for a total of 21 points. Not bad at all. But of course, looking to improve upon that as we still have all 10 teams left and still a large majority of the players as well, for what it's worth. That obviously will start to fade very quickly here in the next 15 seconds or so while this 4th circle takes everybody out of the prison block and in towards the open. Smokes are going to try to be used to disguise this play, and what a read this is. Nicely done for Rumble to get the first, but the problem about this is there's more teams all over the place, although it looks like his team has largely picked up where he had left off. Good trades coming out, and I believe they did find the majority of those kills before it's just Johnny and Luca to survive it.
That was going to be 8 that at least cleans up at least that kill. That's going to be Team Haha that is putting themselves further up on the board. So all squads remaining, but all abbreviated. Keep in mind you that the redeploy has been fully disabled as the zone is going to be pulling towards the center in between the factory and some of the ships on the outskirts. That is a lot of open land, and this is probably the better call out of everything. As you can see from Grevenco, they're just finding themselves a very isolated room inside of this very tight corridor, but snapshot grenades are going to reveal their positioning. You even try to take this challenge if you are an enemy team, knowing that they are locked inside of this very small room. You got deployable cover, but the issue for Grevenco going forward is that they don't necessarily have an abundance of armor plates.
And the thing about this, though, as they are able to take one free kill, it's actually a full team wipe, so now we're off the 10 and into 9. When you started to look at the scoreboard, 20 total kills already. So this is one of those strategies where it says, let's just hold for as long as humanly possible, and then as soon as we have to move, we will. But let's see if we can sneak our way to a top 3 just by riding the outside of this circle. And wouldn't you know it, the circle will pull back right towards their direction. This is a beautiful setup for Grevenco, looking to really capitalize on what is a high kill game so far.
Yeah, and what makes it even more beautiful is the simple fact that they do have the high ground. Speaking of high ground, though, we can take a look at Hybrid & Co. Here playing with Titan, Metzi, and Clink Slays. I'm going to talk about height. They have the ultimate height going forward. They are playing on the rooftops. They will have a great positional advantage looking at a lot of these players rotating in.
Yeah, and you got to remember that Jackal and Co., who were sitting on top of the ship, obviously would have to rotate against this. Quick res comes through. A couple of very quick eliminations as well. We're already down to the top 5. Again, we're looking for top 3. 5th squad will be wiped. 11 total players now remaining as the circle continues to pull northward up the curve on the street. And stim shots will be used trying to get across, but there are already players on top of buildings. And this is the problem with this kind of area, is you don't just have open ground you have to traverse. There's also high ground all over the place that can watch these rotations. So just as soon as you were kind of the culprits of that, you find yourself now the victim.
T4K taking a lot of damage going all the way through the upcoming zone, and as we'll take a look at the final kill tally, and it flashed up so quickly I don't even know who ended up winning it, but hey, that's Rebirth Island in a nutshell, baby. We ended up just rotating all the way through just the upcoming zones. We were talking about how players were in such a superior positioning, but when that final zone came through, it was smack dab out in the open. Whoever had the positional advantage found themselves those kills, and they're going to be able to at least get themselves that first place win. But again, top 3 is going to be the immediate call ahead, and it seems that it will be Hybrid & Co. that walked away with that. So definitely scary, because I mean they were losing a lot of livelihood. Let's put it that way as they were rotating in. Hashtag T4K walking away with the win there. It's Titan, Metzi, Hybrid, and Clink able to get themselves that first place win. Not all of the kills in the world, but the multiplier will be there.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie to you though. I've been surprised that they were the team to come out on top, just due to the fact that from Hybrid's perspective, it looked like they were just done. Like there was no way that they were going to continue to rotate up that street. So they must have done it in kind of layers, where you're kind of just passing the baton between players. Or you go, I'll watch you. Okay, then you go, I'll watch you. And it looked like it worked out for them. Okay, so they're going to follow up what was a 5th place finish in their first game with 15 total points tallied. Now with a 1st place win with, as you had mentioned, maybe not the highest kill tally overall. I still kind of look over to the team that we saw kind of sitting in the back corners, where it's Grevenco, I believe, that were sitting on 20 plus kills, just waiting for the circle. I imagine they probably got closer to 25 whenever all things were said and done. If they could have followed that up with a 3rd place finish, that would have been great news for them when it comes to their overall standings, and kind of negating what was an 8th place finish for them to start in their opening lobby. So really nice stuff all the way through. And well, I mean, it's just the same stuff through and through. It's these quick rotations. Get yourself in the best position possible, then hope that in that final circle, you just get blessed and it starts to rotate towards you, because otherwise it's just chaos.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up seeing that happen on the opposite feed, right? Because the first drop ended up having a zone pull much more northeast over towards Chem. This time around, a pull all the way down towards Prison Block, where things get sketchy all the way through the early stages of a Rebirth drop, right? Where you're always having a lot of teams trying to contest for maybe that top 3rd position, trying to at least find themselves isolated corridor battles, and even more so than that, all the players trying to rotate on in from the opposite sides of the zones that have to make a lot longer of a journey than those that are already dropping over in factory over inside a Prison Block. Have to be able to find themselves very, very favorable gunfights to be able to do it. That's where we saw probably the ultimate demise for Jackal & Co. all the way down by that ship. They were on the outskirts of the entirety of Rebirth Island. Having to get a little bit more central is a very scary feat when you almost find yourself in desperation mode, having to give up that high ground, just rotate through the open while also finding yourself a lot of team shots. That is some crazy communication that needs to come through for a lot of these teams.
You can only get blessed for so long if you're Team Jackal & Co. sitting on top of that ship. That much is 100% for sure with how quick that circle's going to move. So with that, we're through the halfway point of our first set of final qualification groups here with Group E. We'll step away for just a brief moment. The admins are starting to tally up total scores, so when we get the opportunity here in the moment, we'll have a leaderboard refresh for you, see where everyone stands, and who very well may be our first 4 teams to make it to the finals weekend. Don't go too far. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. We are all the way in, as I think we are just about to take a look at the halfway point at the leaderboard at the moment. And, well, I'll tell you, there are some hefty tallies that are coming through. And how about it? Jackal's team still on top, if only just barely. 54 total points, but after T4K came through with their 44-point win, they currently sit at 53 points, underrated still in the mix. And then did you remember, it's the top 4 that make it through, and the battle between 4th and just about everybody else, it's anybody's game here proper.
It really is, right? Because even Team Faded there at the very bottom at 15 points, like you just said, I mean, T4K just had a banger of a game. 44 total points, that's massive. That is day-changing, Alan. And if you find yourself in a position where you can obviously find those kills, but not to mention the 2 times multiplier from winning the entirety of the lobby, that is going to put yourself in a projecting format to be able to get that 3rd, 2nd place, or even that 4th place uncontested. It just comes down to, can you shut down some of these other consistent teams that we've seen throughout the day so far?
Well, we'll come back over to Hex Nation off the drop, about to deploy, just keeping the gun hot. And Hex Nation in particular is one of those teams that is currently fighting. Although, actually, we're hearing from admins, there may be some leaderboard updates to come through. Apparently, there was a miss-submission from one of the opening 2 rounds. So, there will be some adjustments to the scores that we just had. But largely speaking, the numbers are still pretty accurate overall. There's a couple of the kills, I think, were placements that were misrepresented. So, ooh, how about this? I was about to say, okay, so we've had 2 drops in a row where the full circle has been in from the get-go. That will not be the case with this one. Half of this island will be taken away after the first circle. So this will be the first really kind of testing moment, it looks like, off the drop, where do you want to go? Does this maybe impact what your decision-making looks like? And then even more importantly, will we actually have all 10 teams that make it into round 3?
I think that you still take those isolated drops. If you're questioning if not those teams that are going to be dropping up towards labs, towards the decon and chem area, you still take those uncontested drops, get yourself those loadouts, but it seems like off the rip, immediately, a Pilly will be gunned from the back, contested off the get-go here inside of prison, and that's going to be a very scary spot considering that there's only 2 players remaining in a very southern zone.
Yeah, and Gustav is just out of here. He's like, no, we got to make sure our teammates can get back. This is still a salvageable start, even though you lost 2. And, yeah, there we go. Able to regain just a touch with the redeploy. And now we're going to blindly go into docks. Okay, so this was a hot spot last game around, but it looks like there at least are some weapons and some good supply crates nearby. So the opportunity to at least get some instant loot and then immediately be able to respond to any fights is definitely there. The question is just, like, can you actually get yourself set up? That's the biggest thing. Because as you drop a couple of players off the rip, you do not have the ability of getting cash and then immediately getting your loadout drop. So this would be a bit of a problematic start for Hex overall, you would have to think.
60 bullets total to play with, being shot in the side, immediately already revealing themselves, tries to at least reposition, and they will be gunned immediately. This boat was highly contested yet again, Alan. Who would have thought? Again, it is going to be a spectacle for teams trying to rotate on in. You have a lot of high ground position. You can also hear the communication coming through from Apilli's team that they are on an immediate gunfight, at least trying to find these trades, get themselves some early KP, and it seems like they're able to do it given the kill feed.
At least for the meantime.
Yeah.
Still a lot of work to be done, though, for this team to get back to fighting condition. But we'll jump over and take a look to see what Rumble has to do, and not much. It's just the way it goes, man. It's just Rebirth things. And 2 players actually fall very quickly here, so you have this Resurgence cooldown that needs to be sustained through. Unfortunately, players will come in, but look where they're dropping. Oh, boy. You've got 19 seconds, so the circle's going to start to push you, and you are spawning on the exact wrong side of the island. So you want to talk about obstacles. Maybe no more so than Rumble as he drops right back on where he had previously fallen, looking to get some ammo, some armor, and then immediately hit the rotation.
That's fine. 1 player inside the stairwell. They're going to get the better of them. So Rumble's going to be able to bring themselves back in towards this building, get themselves at least a kill or 2. But the issue is going forward is you have 3 players in your immediate vicinity. All of them are just around this very isolated play, Alan. And you can already see immediately Luca's going to try to at least stretch themselves further south so that way they can get themselves maybe a good look at the rotation going forward. Maybe find themselves some further damage, if not a couple kills, to be able to make this rotation that much easier. But the zone started to close in. This will be a little bit more of a slower one comparatively to what we've seen in the later half of the zones. Ring 1 can be a little bit more forgiving in that manner, and it's not exactly the biggest map in the world, so they seem to be making this rotation uncontested for the time being.
The fact that they've gotten all the way to prison with really out being shot at is kind of a miracle in its own sense if you're really thinking about it. But this is where things become more problematic. You've gotten into prison, sure, that's great news. But you have to feel like at least one team is also in prison or watching it. And we'll take a look at Bunker. He is just farming up here, and he is in a great spot, top watchtower. Oh, boy, I don't know how you deal with this position on rotation if you're anybody at this moment in time. He can literally watch the entire map.
I mean, you just hope that someone has a Kar 98K, a Swiss just ready to be able to beam Bunker's head clean off. Obviously, the self-revive will be there to get them back up a single time. Teammates are right around here. You see that loadout drop just falling ever so gracefully out of the sky due to the west, and they do find some damage. So Bunker's going to drop down at least towards the second story. Elisa Shriek's going to come through. The cluster strike will at least buy themselves the space for now. That enemy team that's trying to get themselves that loadout drop, I'm sure, will at least be able to get themselves their weapons. But all 4 players are stuck in here like rats. This is definitely a superior position for the time being, but they can only be here for the next minute and a half, Alan, before they have to give up such a superior position and then have to rotate in.
And you do not want to parachute out of the top of this tower. That is like the one guarantee. You have to rotate on foot. Or if you could find a way to open up some of the rooftops nearby, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of go one by one, try to parachute into the circle, and still hold high ground. So there are some options here. But as we continue to see explosions, gunfire, cluster strikes, and airstrikes, they'll parachute, but they'll parachute out of the ladders, which is, I didn't realize you could open a parachute in there.
That's impressive,
So,
honestly.
it really is, honestly.
I didn't think that a parachute would be able to fit in such a narrow corridor like that. But hey, you learn something new every day. Not saying that I'm going to try it, not saying that you should try it at home either, kids. But even still, going to have to be looking at this rotation sometime soon, 40 seconds, as you were saying. Maybe open up some rooftops. Nice little snap to another player trying to put on their best Ezio impression from rooftoping towards the window.
Good reference.
But even thank you. But even more than that, it's not sufficient damage to be able to make a push off of this rooftop for the time being. They are still knowing that there's a team towards their west. They know that they're pinched in between yet another. But as the bounty does get averted, they can at least feel the comfort that another team is not going to be tracking their whereabouts.
Look how different this lobby has gone, by the way, for what it's worth, compared to the first two. Because this circle continues to creep further and further away from the center, we only have 6 teams remaining, and it does not look like there's been a ton of total kills. And the thing about it, I think you just largely credit the fact of your full team has to rotate if you choose to land away from the initial circle, which we saw about half the lobby decided to do. So this definitely makes sense. And I would have to argue that the teams that decided to make the rotation early or just initially dropped into that left half of the map are reaping the reward because of it positionally. The question will be kills. I imagine this will be one of our lower kill lobbies that we've had so far in our first 3 that we've witnessed up to this point.
I feel like it's a very fair assessment, just given how many more players were just isolating themselves towards the north. I mean, we saw a lot of kills. We even were swapping POVs while players were still dropping in, trying to find themselves that early KP, while also trying to get themselves a good look at an early rotation, as we'll take an immediate look over here. It's going to be Prayers and Co. Just putting themselves on these head glitches all the way down, just mounting on up towards some of these half walls out. And this really seems to be the team to want to get out from this position. Just going to watch for a lot of players inside of these windows trying to rotate on in.
Yeah, and for Grev & Co., they finished with 25 total kills just outside of the top 3 in their last lobby. So, of course, you're hoping that you can get into the top 3 here, get yourself a multiplier, because this lobby actually may mean more than the first 2 that we've had, largely due to the fact that the teams that are finishing outside of the top 3 are likely not going to have a ton of eliminations because of how this circle has moved. So getting to the top 3 here, even with a marginal amount of eliminations, could still provide you a pretty significant point boost in the standings overall. So as Grev was previously broken completely of armor, he's able to get himself into fighting condition again. And how about the spread? I mean, look at the map. They've got the entire backside of the circle to themselves. Tyronix just got to the furthest point over towards Stronghold, and there's nobody here.
Yeah. You want to talk about being uncontested all the way in the backside, the most southern part that you could possibly be? I mean, more than half of this this Ring 3 is going to be mostly inside the water. As we'll take a look at Luxecution. finds themselves at least some players trying to rotate on in. That'll be an isolated engagement. They'll find at least one knock. There's going to be the second, the third student to follow, saying this is our strongholds. You cannot come back here anytime soon. 17 seconds remaining inside of ring 3. And they know that they have at least one more player inside of these buildings. Alan, this will be like clay pigeons just coming straight at them, maybe some from the sky.
I mean, literally, they are in a circle position that they should win this game.
Should.
If not, be able to gatekeep a lot of extra kills, because everybody has to rotate into them, including the player that has the big game, by the way. Third circle is starting to come into play here. 50 seconds before no more redeploys will come out, and this 6-team tally, honestly speaking, has just kind of been stagnant. There really hasn't been a lot of movement when it comes down to the total players that have been alive. So, it's been interesting. Back over to Tyranics here once again. This is Grev & Co. As it looks like T4K is just spectating at this point. They were the team to win the last lobby with a 44-point game. It puts them right into the mix. I think it puts them actually in first by just a margin, a small margin, but it does put them in first. But you have to feel like that is probably going to change after this lobby with them watching the end of it.
Yeah, you do have that small little buffer, but then you got to be able to find consistency in that fourth and final game, as we are watching just again. Just all of Grev & Co. Grev did go down previously, but did at least find themselves in that small last-ditched effort buffer to be able to get redeployed, try to get themselves inside the bathroom. Execution will go down, and well, that's going to be the entire team just going immediately in towards the afterlife. Look at this rotation, Alan, going even further south as well, as we'll take a look at 8th's perspective. As soon as the zone starts to pull in, expect a lot of players to get cut down.
This is Team Haha. They had a 4th place finish in the opening lobby, but not a great showing in the last one. They desperately would love to get to the top 3. With 4 total teams still remaining, 12 total players, and now a manhunt in play. This is not necessarily great news, because you still have to remember the team that's gatekeeping all of this, not just here, but as soon as they jump off this ledge, that's where the action will likely start. And you can kind of see it already, losing teammates down to the right. Nofo is going to have to rotate on the long side of this and hope that they can find some team shots, because there are still so many areas that they could get looked at for free. But they do make their way over to the initial portions of Stronghold. This is actually pretty serviceable. You've got a circle position in front of you just to hold, and then at that point you kind of hold and hope, right? Like, you get in, and then you have to hope after the 4th round comes to a conclusion, the circle pulls back to you. Otherwise, you're just dead meat.
Yeah, it's just a 2v odd many situation here for Nofo and 8th that you just want to be able to play together, find yourself any bit of team shots you possibly can. There's a loadout drop above them as well. That can't necessarily be contested from their position, but it's just about finding players, some shots going down range, maybe try to isolate this play just a little bit. We'll eat at least a bullet to the shoulder, but not anything to really speak of. No real resemblance of any positional advantage. As 8th knows that this team on the opposite side is the one that is currently hunting them. They are just right down range, Alan. Harlow just still sitting up top on the very tippy top of this rotation. Is going to have to give this up in a few seconds here. But even more so than that, is going to get a lot of good information from a very healthy squad.
Did you kind of wonder what happened to Grev & Co. for a moment? Because they were in controlling positions around this spot. But maybe they played a bit too isolated, because it looks like they've given away a lot of space. And yeah, you can see it right there. Tyranics just got knocked or finished, one of the two. And now you got this overlooking position for Harlow down low into these 2 players that are kind of stuck inside of the boxes just outside that main Strongholds building. But look what the circle's going to be here proper. That 2v many situation that we just came off of, it's going to rotate right back towards them. So it's 7 total players remaining, 4 of them alive on this team right here. So you feel good about their numbers advantage, and they've also rotated while keeping the high ground. So good news there. There's the final finish. We're in our top 3. The multipliers have been secured. Now it's just about trying to finish off and get the dub.
They lost godly motions on this rotation. Doesn't have a self-revive, it looks like. They'll probably die towards the gas. And even more so than that, you do have 1 player down low that doesn't have any armor plates. Harlow has to play this position to a fine tune. You know that there's going to be players inside this building. It's just about isolating any players trying to rotate out.
Oh, you hear actually Emotions is giving a bit of a call here, it sounds like, when it comes to how they're rotating back through, but this zone is starting to chip away pretty convincingly. Syringe is going to be called. Harlow's going to go into this, wants to play through the syringe itself. He's going to lose all of his teammates trying to play for the spoke play.
No.
It's not going to work out. And that was 8th. That's 8th who's able to get not just 1, but I believe a double. But can he actually rotate into the 1v1? Stuck on the bottom side. And no, he's going to fall to the circle here. So it'll be a 2nd place finish for 8th & Co. Not even seeing the last remaining member. But the good news about this here is you tallied up the majority of those final kills between the final 4 teams. So I don't know who the last solo was. We'll learn here in a moment, but that was a huge kill tally game for 8th and Co. on that high ground position that was there rotating back into strongholds.
Yeah, and you really got to tip your hat to Nofo and 8th, who again made that rotation inside the bottom side of strongholds, found themselves at least the godsend of RNG when it came down towards that final zone pull. It pulled all the way to them. They were able to maintain that high ground position, saw all of Harlow and Co. rotating all the way in, and they just handed them such a swift and ultimate demise, at least guaranteeing themselves that second place, maybe a few more kills, and it was actually Apilli and Co. that were able to walk away with that win, I believe so.
Devo and Co.
No, Devo and Co, okay.
It's underrated.
Debated by the POVs, yeah, so underrated, at least getting themselves that double multiplier, but even more so than that, the question will still reside, how many kills were they able to find amongst that entire lobby, which continue to pull further and further south, a very weird pull out of the 3 that we've seen so far amongst our drops.
Yeah, and this is a good back-to-back lobby finish for Underrated and Co. They were the team to finish second in lobby number 2, so they're going to get a first-place finish here, which will keep them in the upper echelons of the total leaderboard, at least as they fare at the moment. Like we had mentioned, the leaderboard we showed before the 3rd lobby had a couple of mathematical errors, but those will all be ironed out when we come back from the break before we jump into our final lobby for Group E. There is still one more group to play afterwards, though, so make sure you're sticking around for it. We'll have a leaderboard update when we come back after the break. Welcome back, everybody. We are through 3 lobbies in our first of what is going to be our final 20 total teams. One more to play here for Group E, and the leaderboards are updated. Top 4 are the ones to keep your eye on, because that is who will be moving on into the semifinals next weekend. And well, it is very, very tight right now in the top echelons of this leaderboard. Lots of players and teams stuck around that 60-point threshold, and then even still behind that, one big game could still get you into the top 4. But of course, the focus stays with those 60 points or higher, and you see that all on the left-hand side. An unbelievably close tally here between these 5 teams.
Yeah, it really is, right? And you can even see one bad game will get you out from the top 4. We talked about how T4K, even winning drop number 2 with an abundance of kill points as well, were able to skyrocket themselves in towards the top 3 positioning, but then they lost a very early gunfight, and then they didn't end up getting themselves enough KP to be able to, I guess, find themselves enough. So one good game would obviously skyrocket you in towards the top 3, but you're almost hoping that Destiny will be able to play in your favor for maybe one of these other top 3 teams to have a bad game, much like how T4K just walked away with drop number 3, and then you might be able to work your way inside of that top 4 positioning. So you can't necessarily count out, We Want It More or Harlow and co. They can walk away with a very, very good game here, and given the circumstances that they fully team wipe one of the other top 4 teams, that could be their punch of a ticket all the way in towards semifinals. But it is very close up through that top 5. T4K, Jackal carried, and even We Want It More will probably be the 3 teams you want to be watching out for to be able to maybe contest for that 4th and final spot.
Man, how crazy that last map in the opening circle just made things. Because for Grev & Co., they haven't even finished the top 3 yet, but we saw their position at the end of that last circle, and Tyronix had 13 individual kills. That is by far the highest individual number that we've had so far today, by nearly double. I mean, that is impressive to say the least. So they've been telling all their points just off of the early kills. We've had the conversation so far about, where's the strategy lie? Should you be trying to play for positioning, try to get into that top 3, maybe crossing your fingers for it? Or should you be just trying to farm up the kills, and then if you get top 3, great? Because, the other side of the conversation here is you have a team, like you'd mentioned, We Want It More, 2 top 3 finishes in the first 3 lobbies, but only 40 points. They're still a good 20 points plus behind to even get to the top 4. So it looks like the strategy is definitely rewarding the teams that are playing for those early kills, much more so than the teams that are kind of hoping they get into that top 3 position.
Yeah, I would say this much, that in between gas pole 1 and 2, you're probably going to be looking for a lot of early engagements. That's the reason why we've been seeing Grev & Co. in that top echelon throughout the entirety of Group E's play so far in these 4 drop down. Is the reason being is because they are finding a lot of kills. Obviously, they would have been running away with it if they weren't getting over egregious with a couple of plays there at the end. We saw their positional advantage during drop number 3. They had the zone pull all the way to the backside of strongholds. They were finding a lot of kills, but as you called out, even going back to rewatch it on YouTube, they were isolating themselves so heavily that they weren't necessarily in a position to be able to find team shots. They were more in a position to where they were going to get overwhelmed if they got double chowed or even triple chowed. Sometimes the way that a lot of teams are playing out when it came down to gas pole 3 and 4, quad chowed, which is not something I always end up saying when it comes down to Call of Duty. But it's something you do have to keep your eyes out for, because if a lot of teams are going to continue to take a page out of Grev & Co.'s book, it's going to be that in those early stages of Rebirth, you're going to be looking for those very quick engagements, while also trying to find those quick rotations you keep talking about to give yourself superior position when the zone finally starts pulling in. Of course, you're also going against RNGesus, that if the zone ends up pulling your way.
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm really curious, I think, just to see how this next opening circle is going to be, and if any teams will change up their strategies in the final countdowns now as we load into lobby number 4. As mentioned, the opening portion of this qualification group stage saw 4 groups of 10. Top 5 got moved into this last set of qualification stage, but only the top 4 from this group and the one to follow will make it into the semifinals next weekend. A little bit of late advice coming out of Rumble & Co. They were talking very avidly about what their strategy needed to be when it comes down to, hey, if I call rotate, we have to rotate. So definitely a team to keep our eyes on as they try to work their way in. This is underrated. Again, they won the last lobby, but they only pulled 10 total kills. So it's 69.5 total points. They are still in a position where they very well may not be comfortably into the top 4. And it looks like Rumble actually timed out there for a moment as Obey is able to find the first couple of opening kills. Interaction through the windowsill was a bit strange, to say the least, but kill's a kill at the end of the day, and it looks like this is going to have to be burst pistols to kind of survive yourself through the opening stages of this.
This is actually Obey and Co. that we are on board with. We want it more just sitting on the outside of the top 4 positioning. I believe that they were just sitting about 20 points behind. Finding themselves at early engagement, specifically inside a prison block, you're going to be feeling pretty darn skippy about yourself. Definitely a little bit more central look of the zone poll so far. A lot of teams should feel at least the safety net comparatively to where we were the last time around. Those teams dropping over by Chem. Definitely going to be feeling a little bit more favorable, trying to rotate in, maybe try to at least keep themselves alive further along as the zones start to pull all the way in.
Seeing a message from the admins with that early DC that we kind of watched, that there should be a back out here as we're going to reset this lobby.
Okay, that's good.
So there's at least that to consider, but it looks like the players have not quite seen that notification yet, as we still have everybody in the lobby at the moment, outside of that player that had crashed, and I imagine, well, even his teammates haven't fully packed out, so you still have 10 total teams that are still in play here, so I have to imagine that this will be called at some point, but just in case for some reason it still goes forward, we'll just kind of keep our eye on it, at least for now. Obey did not enjoy that opening interaction, but there we go. The players are starting to back out of the lobby, and we will get a reset there. So not much to say, not much to learn, at least from what we just saw right there. And, we can kind of keep talking through some of the trends that we've seen so far because, I mentioned at one moment in time, that we wanted more team, that Obey squad we were just on board with. 2 top 3 finishes, still only at 40 points. But you want to talk about other teams that have struggled to get kills on the board. How about Harlow's team? A second-place finish and a third-place finish, but only 36 total points. So, again, the early kill presence needs to be established, it feels like, if you're a team that is especially in the bottom 6 looking to break into the top 4 in this last lobby.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that you're abusing a feature inside of Rebirth, but you're finding a very keen exploit, if you will, that you're going to continue to respawn in as long as there's one player left alive of an enemy squad. And this is something that we brought in conversation during drop number 1, is we saw a lot of teams. We saw a total of 9 teams still alive when it was getting down towards that third and final gas pull. And that's going to constantly just be, rebirthing a lot of these players back in towards the lobby. That means an abundance of kill points that you can continue to tally on up. And that's something that Harlow and Co. has absolutely been missing for themselves. Obviously, they've been doing something right. They're finding themselves positional advantage to be able to play when the zone is pulling against them and even with them. But you got to be able to find yourself those gunfights. You have to find that confidence boost now. Later, or sooner rather than later, would be good, because this is your last final drop to be able to find yourself such a big game while also getting yourself that consistent placing that you've seen throughout the entirety of these past 3 drops to be able to finally skyrocket yourself in towards the top 4 position.
Maybe we could take a look here while we're waiting for this 4th round to start up, just back at that format once again, in case anyone is joining us here late that is kind of trying to figure out what exactly is happening. This whole idea of the Rebirth Resurgence has came off of the fact that anybody could qualify and potentially play up against the players that are going to represent the CDL teams live on the COD League channel. You said at the very end, of course, that's happening over the course of April the 24th, pretty much all day long. But it started with just open registrations. Put together your 10 best performances over a 3-hour period. That will be used to get you into the top overall 40 teams. A pretty impressive feat to get to this point in the first place, I would say, this qualification stage. But with those 40 teams, we had 4 different groups split up into 10 different teams. Those were custom lobbies at that point in time, where, again, the same format exists here, where you play 4 total matches, and then your cumulative score at the end of those 4 totals will potentially get you advanced into the second round of the qualification stage, which is where we find ourselves now. But the thing about it is, because there are 12 CDL organizations being represented in the semis, we are only taking 8 total teams. So, of course, that means the top 4 instead of the top 5 from each of these final 2 groups. So the battle's been tight. Of course, the elimination system is 1 point per kill and then 2 times multiplier for first, 1.5 for second and third. We've talked about the importance of that multiplier, but comparing it to Verdansk and Caldera in those custom lobbies, the multiplier does not nearly impact the total scores as much as it does in the traditional Warzone sense. At least I think we could probably say that for sure, especially considering that you've got Grev and Co. that are cruising through top 4 finishes, essentially, with high kills, not having a single multiplier yet.
Yeah, I mean, comparatively to when you are playing, I guess, traditional Warzone, like on Verdansk and Caldera during a lot of those custom and even mini Warzone tournaments, is that you can find a lot of good early kills, but more kills are obviously going to be coming your way when it comes down to those final few zone pulls. And even more so than that, I would say that it's much different in those earlier stages of Rebirth comparatively to Verdansk and Caldera, because you're going to be able to find so many more kills, given the simple fact that you do have the fantastic feature during Rebirth play that a lot of players are going to constantly just respawn back up. So you're going to be able to get yourself those abundance of kills to be able to get yourself that safety net, that barrier, if you will, to be able to walk away with almost 15, 17, 20 sometimes guaranteed points. And then the multiplier is a mute point. We're seeing that comparatively, like you were saying, Grevenko, to be able to get so many dominant early stages of the game, walking away with so many different points, comparatively to Harlow and Co., who are getting that 1.5 times multiplier, but not getting the kills comparatively.
Right. It's definitely interesting. It's a very different ball game than what we've come to know when it comes to competitive Warzone so far. And I think, that refreshing aspect of it is why it has been as popular as it has been. So it's definitely been interesting to kind of get your feet wet with this and see exactly how things have gone. But we are still waiting on the next lobby, it looks like, after that recent back out. Again, this is going to be the last round of the Group E, second round of qualifiers here. We will have Group F afterwards. That'll start at the top of the hour. But while we're waiting for this fourth lobby to start up, we'll send things just to another brief break and then join our players as they're dropping on in. Don't go too far. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We are just about ready to go here after the game disconnect from before. Everyone has re-lobbied and has started to rejoin the queue, getting ready for our final lobby here with Group E. It's tight up there. Tight for the top 5 current spots. Only 4 can get through, and honestly speaking, the teams that are currently sitting outside the top 5 could still potentially make something happen here. So really what we're getting at is one big game could get you into the top 4. Otherwise, for everybody else, well, it's just all about trying to get you into a perspective to just secure a top 4 position, as some major texture bugs are coming through there for a moment on the drop.
Whoa. Talk about getting a very contested drop. You're not facing just players, you're facing textures. But even still, hopping on board with Light to start things off. Gonna be at least taking this isolated play towards the back end of Prison Block. Now, you can only imagine that being such a big POI here, Alan, you're probably not alone over here, though. An early UAV will at least reveal that they are alone for the time being.
Well, for the time being, good UAV information obviously will allow you a chance to not just confirm some weapons, but also possibly just make the first move if you want to. Shots over the top. Not really going to do too much, but you have the ability to jump onto this player if you want to get the early kill. It just comes down to, you know, this is something we haven't talked about at all yet. When you're trying to chase down early kills, is it worth giving up your favorable position just to get a kill that's eventually just going to come right back in anyway? So some decisions have to be made here, but a good start overall. Ironside confirms a kill, Choke confirmed a kill, and, well, overall, 2 solid openers will not just provide you extra cash, but of course it kind of guarantees you the position that you're locking down.
And keep in mind, this is We Want It More. They are sitting outside of the top 5, but most importantly, outside of the top 4, just at about 40 points or so. They need to have a very strong game. So to answer your question about the conversation that we haven't really talked about yet, do you just try to full send onto a lot of different players? Well, if you just try to hesitate a little bit too long, isolate yourselves in the bottom side of Prison Block, you might just get gunned from a window, and that's exactly what will end up being the case, at least for one player. Ironside gets knocked as well. They're going to be fully terminated there, so both Obey and Choke need to stay alive for the time being and just wait for their teammates to be able to be rebirthed back into the island.
Like that, bro.
Well, still have to contest for this, and again, the decision has to be made. How much do you give up now in order to make sure your teammates can stay safe? And this is the problem of going to the rooftop, is anybody can be watching you from multiple angles, including on top of your own roof. So that's another player dropped. That's Sin City, who's able to come through and find that with his squad. And that's a lot of early eliminations. That's probably, for that one particular team, that's probably 3 individual kills to come through for him. Not a full team wipe by the look of it, as we still have 10 total squads remaining, but a lot of early kills. And we jump over to Jackal's POV. He had a really good look opening this overall group. Good kills, good win. But this one, a little bit slower for him, and they are still in a pretty vulnerable position from not being guaranteed top 4. So you have to do some work in this 4th lobby.
Taking a nice little ride. See if they can maybe find some beams up towards the top tower. Seems that Drift is going to be able to at least find themselves at least one knock. Some communication coming all the way through. They are not alone on this rooftop. Some more team shots coming through. Semtex is soon to follow. They want to fully deal with these players up top. Try to hold on to the superior position up top of the Prison Block. Nice little turn, and the burn will come through as well. Jackal racking up the early kills with their team.
Not a full team wipe, but as mentioned, a lot of good kills, and even actually taking a player out of the air. And oh my, look at all the parachutes coming through. You have to keep your head in a swivel because you hear the calls, players on top of the tower, players that are still falling in around you, and including the helicopter at the top. And there's an opportunity where you could just destroy this, maybe even find a free kill by blowing it up, but they're not quite able to do it, at least not as of yet. But at least for now, everyone stays safe, and you just continue to see more players littering the sky. You have to make your choices. Do we take shots? And if so, when? Because, as mentioned, it's difficult to secure these kills when they're coming off the initial parachute drop.
Swap back over. More positions will be fully revealed here just in a moment's time. Again, a little bit more central is what the zone's going to be looking like. Not a whole lot of the ocean inside of the zone, but you peek up on top of the rooftop, you're going to get sniped. That's Drifts on the opposite side, who was the team of Jackal and Co. that we were watching earlier. And yeah, fantastic shot. We'll rip the head clean off as we'll take a look down here at Gustav. Last alive for their team. Just has to hold this position all the way down low and just wait for their team to get rebirthed once more.
Oh, greedy drop. There were a couple of players just underneath that rooftop, but we'll go back over to Obey's perspective. All 4 members have gotten back, at least for now, but obviously the loot does not look all that great, not just for weaponry, but more importantly for armor. Stim shot on the way in. Player on the high ground, though, and that's the problem. No armor, you're going to get essentially 3 shot. So not looking good for Obey's team here in a game where, honestly speaking, this was the team that we had mentioned. A couple of great finishes, but not a lot of kills. So not a great start overall, because you have to put yourself on a 20-plus point game here if you want to even have a shot at getting into the top 4. They're sitting currently at just 40 points, a good 20-plus below the top 4 leaders at the moment.
Yeah, they want it more, but they absolutely need it here in this final game. From bottom up top, Obey again, no armor plates, just gonna get team shots and the lead. Yep, and he's even saying it as well. Just shot from too many different angles to worry about, just trying to find themselves those early kill points. We'll hop back over towards Grevenko, who has themselves a nice little high ground positioning. And this is going to be the team that did just take out Obey and Co., and they're going to be fully wiped off the map, Alan. You can see right there, 2 squads fully eliminated away from this final drop for Group E. And it's Grevenko again, who have been almost making it notorious for themselves to be able to find themselves so many early isolated engagements and walking away with them.
Interesting little move out of the window, trying to play off the stim shot, but it gets red. Good help coming through. That's Rumble, who just gets finished off, and it looks like that's going to be enough vacancy to drive Grev right back into the mix. So early kills been the name of the game for Grevenko. It continues to be that way. As you saw it flash there for a second, looks like they're nearing, if not just barely above double digits. And we've already had 2 teams already get wiped off from being able to come back in. So another quick lobby coming through. I think this is a lot of the case of a lot of teams are looking to play for kills, and either they're finding them or they're getting punished, one of the two. As Bunker looks like he very well maybe one of the last players left, or his team has just gotten wiped, one of the two. But we go back to 8th. They had a really solid finish in their last lobby. Just a bit short of getting the win, but a lot of tallied up kills put him in 2nd with a 30-point game, and it firmly plants them into the top 4 for now. But still, nothing is safe with so little teams in such short lobbies.
Yeah, and this is now just a pressure point within the entirety of the lobby. You can see gas ring number 2 closing on in. Once gas ring 3 does start to ensue, not going to be able to get that redeploy. And most importantly, you're not going to be able to get yourself back in towards a safe enough position to be able to get yourself any loot and be able to recontest the rest of the lobby. We'll take a look at Exhibition now, who has themselves a lot of high ground to be able to play with here. Some loadout drops on the side just in case any do go down. This, you would almost feel, would be almost uncontested, but at least you have a lot of different rooftops that you can keep swinging in between. Make sure that you can keep finding yourself gunfights rotating on in. Gas ring 3 is going to continue to pull further northeast of their current positioning, and you know that they're going to look at this rotation early.
Well, you've got the ability with this fire sale to potentially be able to get UAV help here, and that's exactly the case. Full UAV being called in, so constant information as Ability is able to get over to his teammates finally. They looked like they were in a pretty elongated battle. Only one player to deal with. That stun did not quite connect, so now we do it the old-fashioned way, just bursting through the doors, but a bit of miss on where this player has gone off to. And with 30 seconds until round 3 comes to a close, careful here. There you go. Rake's able to find the kill. That's actually onto Hybrid, who we've seen a lot of today. But it's not a full team wipe, so again, with the next 20 seconds in the mix till the 3rd round comes to a close, we start to consider when the actual Resurgence itself finishes. And that has a minute 15 timer. So now you start being a little bit more cautious about your positioning and what gunfights are going to take, knowing that there's not going to be a lot of ability for you to get rebirthed here.
And they are just in such a good position, and just resource-wise. You got 3 gold armors. Chili, the only one not with it, but even still, got to take care of Ray. Romano will go down as well as Ray. They will be both terminated. You got 50 seconds remaining as far as the rebirth clock is concerned, so they will be back, but the question is, do you even find yourself back into a position where you can come help out your teammates? Nice stairwell positioning will be here for Apilli, but the bait switch, maybe not intended, but Apilli will still go down regardless.
That was Harlow who just tallied up the elimination. That's actually maybe the full team that just gets wiped here. You'll see it from Harlow's perspective. He's trying to finish off this final kill. Actually, he got knocked in the process. Nice little finesse move coming through. No trade immediately there. But, well, the last countdown's in the mix as the circle starts to tighten up. So here's Hybrid just as we were getting close to the end of the Resurgence countdown. Coming on in, and, well, he's trying to get his teammate up at this point in time. You just don't want to lose anybody with such little time left before no more respawns can come through. So a key res, and now it's just down to can you get Hybrid into fighting condition as you try to finish off this lobby.
Answer will be yes for the time being. Titan does get revived, and now comes the next step of the laundry list. Try to at least find yourself some semblance of loot. Maybe try to contest this fight that's about to be coming through them. The gas will be closing on in. You can see that the respawn is now fully disabled. So you got to be able to play as tight-knit as possible. Titan does not have any armor plates, but is still taking shots at some other players. They are trying to find this rotation as best as they possibly can, as the zone is pulling more center of the entirety of the Rebirth Island in towards the prison block we go.
I love the quick rotation, though. Timing-wise, this is absolutely what you want to see. The thing about it is once you find yourself in an inevitable fight, can you keep yourself healthy? That's a very well-timely found armor plate as well for Hybrid. And he's in, but deployable cover player is behind that. That is Prayers. That's able to find that elimination, just kind of watching a couple of different angles. It looks like by himself. So, again, kills tallied up for another team that loves to just zone. That's Grevenko's conglomeration that comes through. So, we get over to Team Huge, who is needing to put together a miracle run here. Medley's perspective for now. And as the zone will force him out of this corner, questions start to mount as far as who's in front of me as you try to exit this prison block.
He's not even on the same floor of his other teammates. You can see both Critics and Apex are a floor below them. One of them is actually completely outside, and Medley has to take this engagement as best they possibly can, and just bait and switching in between the own doorways themselves. Nades coming in as well. Just such a nuisance to deal with players on the opposite side of the doorway. They got a burst pistol, maybe try to take this engagement, but it's not favorable. Not anymore. No armor plates in their back pocket. Apex bites a bullet as well. It doesn't seem like Critics is in a pristine position as well, just outside of the gas. Needs to come to their team's rescue.
This is so tough. You have to go through this door. No armor. You're hearing the call-outs. Medley saying they're close. They're just on their side of this door. There's the open. Just burst, run right on through. Maybe wait for some gunshots to come out. And the timing here is absolutely flawless. Medley's able to take down one, finish the kill, get out, but there's no armor plates. And now all of a sudden you get pushed into the zone itself. And that looks like that will be it. A couple of good kills, but 15 total eliminations, and finishing outside the top 3 will likely mean that their run has come to an end. We go back over to Hex Nation. They've put together a pretty solid lobby here in the 4th and final, and they need to badly. They're just at 29 total points. This would have to be probably the biggest game we've seen so far if they want to survive into the top 4, and based on the individual kills we've seen periodically for this team, they very well may be able to do it.
Oh, they're seeing players drop.
Wow.
20 pigeons in the sky. Pull, they're finding all the kills down. One more player up top. They will meet their demise. They know that more players are trying to prison break out, and that will be just it. Last squad remaining, and it's a 3v1. Good luck. Have fun. It seems Apillion Co. might have themselves a good look to be able to close out this game and maybe give them that buffer that they're looking for a top 4.
Oh, and they found the last player. A couple of tags will come through. The full flank on the opposite side. They get the Warzone victory. The question will be the how many kills, because they needed to put together probably about a 40-point game, if not more than that, if they wanted to supplant a team that's currently sitting into the top 4. But a clean finish, and as you had called, as we saw players jumping off of balconies, rooftops, it was a lot of eliminations in the end, and, well, it's going to be right around a 40-point game. It'll be tight. I mean, it'll be a 44-point game. Am I doing that math correctly? 22 total kills?
I don't have my calculator. So, I mean, even still, it is 40 points or more, and even more so than that. This goes back to a conversation I was talking about before we hopped into our first drop when we ended up having to reset the entirety of the lobby, Alan, is that this could be a very good game for Hex Nation. Yes, I'm not dissuading that conversation. What I'm mostly bringing up into conversation is what do the other top 4, top 5 teams look like? How did their 4th game ended up going? Because if they found themselves a sufficient buffer to almost kind of gatekeep Hex Nation out from being able to get a top 4 position, then that's all for naught. You're mostly hoping that other teams at the very top, including Grevenko, who we saw finding themselves a lot of good early engagements, as they have notoriously done through all 4 drops in Group E so far, did not find themselves as many points as they did in previous drops, so that way Hex Nation can come knocking on the door and find themselves in semifinals.
So the team that finished in second, as we're getting the reports kind of coming in fluidly, is Grevenko that finished in second, and they put together another high kill total. So they're going to be locked in the top 4 position, no problem. They may have actually just won this group, by the way. 94 total points for them. But we'll kind of have to wait and see what the rest of them are going to add up to be as we get through it. But you have to feel like you got to get above probably 84, 83 points just to get in towards the top 4. So, I don't know. It wasn't enough. The win puts Hex Nation at 73 total points. I don't think that's going to be enough, but it could be really, really close. a hell of I mean, that's exactly what you needed to do. That's the only thing you could have done in that position. It was just unfortunate that you finished in 9th in the first lobby. You had 13 total kills, by the way. They were fragging in that first lobby, and then they followed up with the 6th place, only having 8 total points, and then an 8th place in their round 3 game where they only had 8 total points. So those 2 rounds in particular, not great, and could have been a byproduct of them getting caught outside in that 3rd game from where the circle initially started and having to rotate through too many teams.
Yeah, it's almost going to be throwing your hands into the air and be like, well, where was that the past 3 drops for Hex Nation, given the fact that we saw them on screen a handful of times, but not in such a grand gesture of what we just saw there at the very end. Most of the time just getting isolated, but even more so than that, the biggest question is, how did T4K fare? Ever since, finding that drop number 2 Warzone victory, they didn't necessarily find themselves any sort of form of consistency. That could very much so be another team that plays outside of the top 4. They were already beckoning to almost get in the top 5, top 6 positioning, with just being so close to the other 5 teams that were at that very top echelon. So a lot of questions need to be answered as scores are continuing to come all the way in.
Yeah, I mean, T4K put together one of our best wins that we had so far in this lobby, actually tying that last one for Hex Nation. But yeah, they did not follow it up at all. 1 point and a 9th place finish in that 3rd lobby. I'm telling you, that 3rd lobby, it was going to be the lowest kill lobby that we had by far, but it was undoubtedly the most important lobby of the 4, just due to the fact that there were so many teams that did not want to change their drop location, even though they were forcibly putting themselves way outside of where the initial circle was going to pull, let alone the ones to follow. Like, Grevenco absolutely reaped rewards through that. 13 total kills for Tyrannics. We saw them setting up that zone where there's gatekeeping the entire backside of Stronghold. I mean, they had the entirety of the circle to themselves, essentially. And they were able to just absolutely destroy teams as they were trying to rotate through. Man, that's unfortunate. I think for a couple of different teams. You look at Huge's game today, not really all that great. A couple of good kills, but didn't really come close to finishing in the top 3. Hex Nation, kind of the same situation early until that Savior last lobby. Maybe they did enough. I think that 3rd lobby, though, in particular, you look at the teams that finished in 10th, 9th, and 8th. I mean, they barely pulled together any points. Even the teams that finished in 7th and 6th barely put any points together for that lobby. So that was a very important one, I think, for the scheme of things. And the teams that finished in the top 3 are going to love the fact they finished in the top 3 during that lobby in particular.
Look, I said the one word on the day was going to be consistency. You only have 4 drops in total, and all zones obviously will not be the same. You might see some semblance of safety, but even more so than that, you have to somehow find some semblance of consistency throughout the entirety of these drops. If you walk away with one bad game, that could honestly be the end of all B for this entire day for Group E. No, I didn't mean that to rhyme, but I'm mostly just bringing up the simple fact that you got to be able to find an abundance of kills while also finding yourself a lot of good positioning. I mean, we talked about that through so many different teams, specifically Harlow and Co., that were able to find themselves a lot of good finishes, but they weren't finding the kills. Grev and Co. were finding so many kills, not always finishing inside a massive multiplier, but still finding themselves a sufficient amount of points to be able to put themselves in a position to be able to contest all the way to the top. 1 second place finish away, and they might be able to walk away with Group E as a whole, but even more so than that, they had the game plan, and that was just absolutely slay out, and they hit it all the way on a fine tee.
Well, it looks like all of the tallies are starting to come through. I don't know if our leaderboard is fully updated for us to take a final look. We definitely know what the top 4 is going to look like, because looking at the scores, there seems to be there's going to be a pretty significant gap. So these may not be the official final numbers, but I think your top 4 are probably going to be locked in. And oh my, Grev & Co. are going to win this lobby group off of 1 second place finish, 94 total points. Everything else was, as you had mentioned, all from kills. Team Haha, a second place finish in that crucial map number 3, finished with 88 points in second. Underrated. They were the most consistent by finish and kill, I think you could probably argue today. A second, a first, and a third to finish off their run. Even though the kills were not necessarily all that great, it was enough to get them into 83 total points. And then Jackal & Co., 79 points, just barely gatekeeping Hex Nation from putting together the miracle 4th lobby based on the results that we have right here. So, not fully confirmed as far as the total scores, but it does look like that those top 4 will likely be the top 4 that make it into our CDL team Sunday, the final Sunday next weekend.
Yeah, and they really got to feel an extra heartbeat there for Hex Nation, who again put on a fantastic performance there in drop number 4, just keeping all players alive all to the very end, only losing one player towards the very, very end final zone pull, but even more so than that, it, again, just could not find that consistency factor between drops 1 and 3. Really feels like that Jackal and co, who ended up walking away with their first drop win, only needed to be able to stay alive and find themselves rotational kills along the way to maintain that top 4 positioning, but it remained tight all the way through, and then the answer comes through that T4K, who I believe ended it at about maybe 6th, if not 7th place, could not find themselves any semblance of safety or kills to speak of there in that final drop to be able to beckon that top 4 positioning. Although they ended up winning drop number 2, that's what it mostly comes down to. Again, you can try to find yourself early engagements, you can try to find yourself that early loadout drop, but if you can't piece it all together to be able to maintain, to find yourself those kills in that top 3 finish, well, that's exactly where it's going to be looking like at the end of the day.
So as far as we've gathered, that will conclude Group E with those 4 squads making it, as we mentioned, into the CDL Finals weekend next weekend, April the 24th. Both semifinals and the grand finals will all be happening on that day. So massive congratulations to those 4 for making it through. But the night is not done yet. Actually, very soon, we're going to be jumping into Group F, the final of the qualification stage groups. And I'm telling you, there are some heavy-hitting names that you're going to want to be paying attention to when it comes to major Warzone content creators and competitive players that are going to be fighting it out for top 4 spots. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I would be willing to wager that some of those top-tier players are going to miss out because of how loaded this next set of lobbies is about to be. So we'll step away for a bit of a break, make sure all of our internal assets are completely ready to go for it, and we shouldn't have to wait for too long. Instructions should be given out to the players here right now, and hopefully they'll be back ready to go at the top of the hour. So reset yourself and come back. The last of the qualification stage continues right after this. Well, at the start of the day, we had to qualify 8 teams to make it to the final weekend for the Rebirth Resurgence to square up against the CDL squads. We've already handled half of them. 4 from our previous group have triumphed and made their way in. But this next group, the gloves are off. We've got some heavy-hitting squads and individuals kind of littering Group F. Same format, though, will apply. 4 teams, 4 lobbies. That's all you get to establish yourselves as being in the first Rebirth Resurgence finals. My whole shift with me proper. I don't even know where to start, Andy, with this one, because I think the easiest place to start is you've got Intex and Flank playing together, but they're playing with Jelly and Smixy. That's just one squad. Blue, Lovey, Zepti, and Lon are playing together. Okay, that's 2 potential top squads. Zen and IQ, Picnic, and Nick Cool. It's another team to keep an eye. I mean, it's just, you go on and on and on. Jeez, it's an unreal setup, and we'll take a look at what is Team Flanked Tech, and I think you know who's on that team just based on the name alone.
Yeah, sick team name, first of all. Big fans. This is going to play heavily in the favor for a lot of different squads. Again, when you're thinking about how stacked Group F is, you're talking about a lot of mini Warzone battles and triumphant victories, as well as all the Rebirth tournaments that they've been playing on board for a lot of these different individuals. They're going to be feeling right at home, just dropping immediately on in, down towards this isolated play, just finding themselves a lot of loot, just all stacked together, looking for these players that are isolated on the opposite side of the opening.
The interesting thing about this opening drop, though, here, Proper, is the fact that they actually do not have enough cash to get an early loadout. So you kind of need to make a decision here, as it looks like they've completely looted all of Chem so far, of do we back away? Oh, hello, where did that guy come from? Flank wasn't sure where he was being shot from for a moment. He's like, wait, how did the guy get behind me? Good team help coming through, though, as they are able to drop another player trying to finish off the kill, but they do lose Smixy in the process. So they thought Chem was open, but little do you know, you're actually being contested. And once again, this is not with preferred weaponry, so you got to make do with whatever you found in the ground, and it looks like largely that's going to be okay.
Yeah, the MP40 coming out of Vanguard absolutely hits like a truck. Big old team wipe coming through, as you call, Alan, and well, that'll be a great start going forward. This is probably the earliest that we've seen a team wipe, especially coming away from Group E, who seemingly stayed alive for such a long time going in towards ring pole number 2, as we'll swap perspectives on over. Try to see just another play that's happening actually on the opposite side of where we just hopped away from, who ended up at least losing one player, but they're finding themselves in another engagement as well. It's going to be De Niro along with their teammates, who already has 2 kills, keep in mind you.
Yeah, this is Team Diverge. Aloha Mai, De Niro, Intense, and T-Blicky is the group of 4. And high-quality stream here, by the way. Love that. Love a good stream in 4K.
I see everything.
It really is. But as you mentioned, hey, here's the thing. You've got yourself in a pretty solid spot, but cash still also seems to be a bit of a problem here. You've got the drop location right behind you, or at least the buy station right behind you, but not enough cash to get a loadie initially. So you kind of have to be a little bit casual about what you want to do in any incurring fights, especially considering that you yourself are being hunted. So you've got your own bounty in at the moment. Sure, that's fine, but without preferred weaponry and you're being hunted, you kind of have to hit the brakes a little bit, and it looks like they'll do that, looking for just a little bit extra cash to get to 10K.
Having me more like loot piles, you have to really choose in between. That's a nice little stack of cash there, and we're in inchworm gymming our way towards that finally necessary call for a loadout drop, but it's just a few bucks shy from being able to at least be called all the way in now, and you can see that they're still hunting at least another team that's going to be Team Intex & Co. on the opposite side of this opening, and still being hunted themselves. Don't necessarily want to put themselves in a position to be able to be contested. Nice little shower is going to be pulled in here. Just a small cache being brought in from the shower heads. Might inch their way closer and closer, but with Aloha being cut down, things are going to get interesting to be able to see if Team Diverge are going to be able to call in that loadout.
You know, everyone is talking about how, the overhead rain shower heads are like all the rage. I would give up anything to have my shower head toss cash at me. That's got to be the future.
If that's the power of an overhead shower head, then I'm all in. I've never had one before, but now I definitely want one.
Totally. Oh, nice shot. Flank able to take down one and then immediately gets the second from the second window. Really well read here from Flanked. Not going to be able to do much with that, you would feel, just due to the fact that it's just downs for now, but at least you're able to weaken up a team, and that will maybe give you some cause for a rotation if you need to. But as the first zone has come to a close, we see exactly where the boundary lines of the second will be, and Flanked actually gets caught with the sniper in hand, Smixy there saved the day. Good kill, good knife, and that'll work out pretty nicely. This is the 4-man feed for this exact same squad for Flank Tech. And, well, it's not even, I mean, you see top right, Intex has got to beat in a team that's trying to rotate into them. So, kills galore just from just holding this opening position by Chem from the initial drop. This has been good news for Team Flank Tech.
Yeah, and they're all staying alive as well. As you saw, Smixy was able to get that trade and was immediately able to revive Flank. So they're staying healthy. They got themselves some favorable weapons to be able to be played with. Intex also still beaming players just out in the opening, trying to rotate, out from Decon all the way down towards the harbor side. And this is just open opportunities galore to be able to find themselves so many kills. Intex already has 4. Lord knows how many is already combined between all 4 of these players.
Yeah, that's for sure. And just watching these drop boxes just to see if anyone's going to land on top of it. It'll be easy pickings for Intex. One player loading up. Hear the calls. See the top of the head, but not quite the ability to do too much with just the environment that's there. So Flank will bring his trusty sniper rifle over, trying to help out. And how about this? Helicopter also being used. This is a huge opportunity to capitalize on some big kills. They down 1. Can't quite get the second. And the problem here is Intex is kind of out of ammunition, so it's a nice position to be in, but not the ability to sustain the gunfire, and he's going to have to consider possibly just switching up to some ground loot. And yeah, it's a purple Car 98 to get picked up trying to continue on the same play.
Car 98K, straight out of Vanguard, can absolutely still put in work. We know Intex can hit these shots, but has a combined 8 shots to be able to make some more work be found. And as the zone continues to be pulled all the way in, they're still safe inside of Chem. Wait for it. Oh, just a bit outside. Maybe the second one at least gets an armor tag, but even more so than that, can't find a knock. More or less, you're not necessarily in an immediate position to be able to try to full send on this team, especially with Jelly having to be revived here from a teammate. So going forward off of this, we'll swap positions over towards Goats, who is going to be represented by Blue, Lovey, Zepti, and Lonard. And Lonard was actually that player that actually got gunned from Flank's sniper play just a few moments ago. There was that team that was rotating in from Decon all the way inside of prison.
Yeah. No individual kills for Lonard here, but you have to feel like there's been at least a couple tallied up for the team at large. But for now, all is calm. Just looking to see where exactly the next gunfight may persist. Just largely due to the fact that you're center of the zone at the moment. And you have to assume that people are on your rooftop, so obviously you got to be careful of any staircases around this area. Precision airstrike will likely flood this team on the top of the roof down towards them. That seems to be at least a consideration for now. But not too much that is actually kind of occurring. So still 8 teams, still alive. Second zone is about to come to a close, and we get to our critical third, which, as you see where the circle will be, still an opportunity to play off prison if you want to.
Yeah, you talk about players maybe on the rooftops. I'm more worried about players that could be on the first floor. Galore, as you see, just slowly working on an opposite pinch to be able to maybe open up a couple of these loot boxes, maybe try to find themselves at least some more players. They seem to have an understanding or an idea that they are not necessarily alone on prison break-in, or inside prison block, excuse me, and that would be the right call as a snapshot grenade does come through. Blue will be revealed for the time being as they're playing these upper cell blocks, just trying to find where these players are located at. Shots will be coming through as pings soon to follow.
Okay.
Mid-connector, one shot. I'm getting big game.
Cluster strikes coming down here. The call saying, all right, let's keep our focus on the right spots here. Let's not get caught by surprise. Zepti takes down one. That was Goro who just fell.
It's only one guy down below.
That's We Can Do It Round 2 is the team name for Goro. They finished off that kill no problem.
We gotta hold like a good spot.
And we go over to Zepti's POV. He was the one to tally that elimination, and 4 kills for him independently. So yeah, even though there was not necessarily a ton from our initial perspective, this team definitely has started to get a lot of kills on the board.
Yeah, and they're doing the even wiser play here is that they're playing so close together that at least trades can come all the way through, always trying to cycle a lot of these different windows for these different perspectives to see where these rotations are going to be called in for. And you can see as the zone continues to pull even further east, Alan, is that it's going to be a very interesting rotation coming in towards ring number 3, given the simple fact that there's going to be a lot of water in play, so a lot of teams are going to be soon contested as we're down to 6 squads remaining.
We go back over to Flank Tech's perspective, though, with all 4 players. And they put themselves in a really good spot. You've got the water to kind of guard you on your left the entire way through. you've kind of got the back part of the circle to your back for the most part. You can watch teams rotate into this, but very likely there's going to be no one on this side of the circle. Oh, I say that. And you look over, and there actually is a player sitting on the back side of this ramp. Nade's coming through, but it looks like this player is probably toast. You would have to assume. Should be isolated. Nice shot up top once again. Just a bit high, but Intex is fine to at least let that player live for now. Redeploy has been disabled, so now it's just down to whoever is last standing, and here we go. This actually is apparently a full team that's on the back side of them, so you clean this up, then you for sure have the circle to your favor. And it looks like as Intex gets back in, he might just serve himself as kind of a UAV for a time, and no, not even needed. Smix is going to move forward, take down one, get a lot of damage into the second. Difficult gunfight, though, and will actually be backed up and taken down from a little bit of help coming from, I assume, teammates from the high ground.
Oh, the angle just a little bit too long. Nobody was in an immediate position to be able to help out Smixy from that positioning from the staircase to be able to deal with the player on the head glitch for the truck. Immediately gets precision airstruck as well, but Smixy won't get full eliminated. So you should be able to at least get back to some semblance of a healthy squad here, but armor plates don't seem to be in a massive abundance between the four.
Oh, yeah. Armor
or
is,
ammo.
yeah, I was say armor or ammo, either or. Yeah, they were kind of confused. That player that was on the backside, they weren't 100% confident on where exactly that player had gone to. I don't know, maybe he was died or something. Armor box does get plated, though, so an opportunity to at least get some sustainability into the mix. We're still remaining with 8 total teams, by the way, so the disablement of the actual redeploy has not really swayed this lobby too much. And as this fourth circle is going to come to a close in the next 30 seconds, proper buckle up. We're in for another hectic one.
Oh, yeah, look at the rotation coming all the way through, and these kills are going to be massive for Flank Tech, given the simple fact that they needed the ammo. The plates came through thanks to the armor box, but getting the ammo and dispersing it as best you possibly can, also getting yourself inside of this dock building, this is going to be a big moment for Flank Tech, not only to be able to find the eliminations, but also the sustainability.
Oh, they're snowballing this. They just dive right on through Harbor, no problem, really.
That's a good deployable, though.
Still 8 total teams, though. Color me surprised. 8 total teams have found their way into the back. And this is one of the things we didn't really mention. Not only are you dealing with a lot of heavy hitters that are obviously very talented at Warzone, they also know how to survive. So
yeah,
this lobby could get really interesting, or this group, rather, could get really interesting throughout these 4 lobbies. We go back over to Zepti's point of view, stuck as he couldn't quite get behind the deployable cover. But Blue, Lovey, and Leonard are still alive, at least for a small time here, as we continue to fight. Finally, we get the 8 turning to a 7. Remember, top 3 is where the multiplier comes into play, but this lobby has been dealing significant amount of damage in the kill department, and whoa, wait a second, Zepti able to keep himself alive, now has an opportunity maybe to get this into not just 1, but maybe even 2 kills. I thought there was a player that was left, but must have miscued it, and there we go. There's the fight right behind him. Not going to get credit for that kill as that player was already down, but Zepti will still at least finish it off, and now we're in our top 3. We went from 7 to 3 just like that, proper.
Yep, just at a snap of a finger. Wonder who's still alive, as you're still missing about 3 players from the rest of the lobby. Another will end up biting the dust here. It's going to be Smixy that's up top, going to be able to at least collect on towards this, the very last few kills that are left inside of this lobby. 3 squads remaining. Last fight going to start to come around the corner.
So this team completely wiped, and now we're into our final squads. Blue by himself is in a 1v3 and won't even be able to look down as Intex and co. Oh boy, they absolutely snowballed through Harbor. But even with that said, we talked about it. We didn't see many individual eliminations for Leonard. He finishes with 0. And, well, the rest of his team got more than 0. I'll tell you that much. But in the end, it's, what, 21 total kills or a 42-point game there for the winners in the opener. That's going to be a good way to start off your 4 lobby spree.
Yeah, I mean, look, dude, when you're thinking about it, a great start is exactly what we were talking about when we were spectating over Group E. And even more so than that, they were able to carry that momentum going forward to be able to at least, by the hair on their chinny chin chin, to be able to at least qualify for semifinals that is coming later on down this month. But even still, for Group F, specifically for Flank Tech, they were under a lot of pressure. They were under a lot of adversity, I'll put it that way, inside of Chem, given the simple fact that they were running out of ammo, they were running out of armor, but they were still taking the gunfights, and then as you were saying, somehow turning that into a snowball effect. That 1 or 2 eliminations that they were able to find, entering inside a harbor, then dispersing the ammo, dispersing what armor they were able to find, absolutely created a snowball effect that they just were able to get that high ground that was in that final zone, and were able to isolate a lot of those players. A lot of abbreviated squads there at the end, but it really felt like that flank tech were the one squad from the get-go all the way to the final moments that were healthy more often than not.
I think they just had a lock on how they wanted to play that zone. I think the biggest thing was they were a little bit blessed sitting down towards Harbor that the zone came down to the low ground in the first place, where a lot of teams, you kind of saw them on the backside of the circle, had to wrap themselves through that little serpentine roadway in the back. That turned into a full team wipe and some extra kills along the way. And then once you only have to focus forward, that's when you expect that the individual prowess of those players is definitely going to really rear its head. So a really solid opener right there from the side of Flank Tech. But hey, FaZe Blue and Co., the GOATS team name, they put together a lot of kills, even though we didn't particularly see a ton from Leonard. The rest of the team definitely put together double digits for 1.5 times multiplier, so that's great news as well. I'm telling you, this lobby is going to be, or this group rather, is going to be unbelievable from start to finish, and that's just lobby number 1 of 4. We'll step away from a break. When we come back, we'll tally the leaderboard and also just refresh you on the format in case you're joining us here late as far as how we got here and where our top 4 teams after this group stage will go afterwards. So don't go too far. We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back, everybody. The final group. We need 4 teams, and we're through our first of 4 total drops for Group F. And the first one came through, and we saw a lot of where the action resided with Flanked Tech, Team Flanked Tech. They put together a 21 kill win, 2 times the multiplier, puts them at the top, obviously, at 42 total points. But the rest of the action below, and again, this is kind of a 1-for-1, very similar to what we had seen in the opening stages of our previous group. Anyone's game still. The top 5 obviously much tighter together than, well, maybe just the top 4 tighter together than the rest of the pool, but anything can turn, anything can happen. The biggest thing, though, is your current number 1, number 2, and number 3 teams are also the teams that finished number 1, number 2, and number 3 in the last lobby. So where last lobby was proper, talking mostly about the ability to tally early kills, and maybe miss out on placements and not be punished for it, the same may not be said about what's going on here.
Yeah, it almost feels like that we're playing a different type of Rebirth, isn't it? That we are playing in an effect that where you want to be doing everything collectively together, that you want to be able to not just chase down kills, but if you're making a play, it's all happening together. If you go down together, that is just what it ends up being. If you try to chase down a couple of weakened adversaries, that all needs to be happening together, which is very resemblance as far as how the score ends up looking and where these teams ended up almost falling out, especially in the bottom 5 teams, like really like that, and we can do it in round 2. All that said, I think this is where teams are going to almost either play safer and not maybe try to chase down kills as heavily, or they're going to end up chasing them down a whole lot more and try to play upset for a lot of other teams depending on where the zone starts pulling to.
I will say that I think the most interesting team to kind of keep an eye on for this one, whether we get them on screen or if we just see what their leaderboard is, Team HB, which is Clumsy, Vera, Legit, and Fuel, finished 4th, but only had 5 kills. So I think that is a stylistic and tempo thing that needs to be looked at for that squad if they continue to get high placements but not finding very many eliminations whatsoever. Because I'm telling you, this is a complete polar opposite than what we've gotten in Caldera or Verdansk, where you value trying to get to the late game and then kills will come to you. That's not necessarily the case. You got to get these kills early when gunfights are a little bit safer just due to the fact that there's not such a tightly packed group of people all over you in that last final circle.
Within 5 meters of each other.
It's a great conversation just to bring up in general, because even the slightest bit of hesitation on trying to find yourself that advantage to push or not could mean that that enemy team is already plated back up. If not, another team is already putting themselves in a position to be able to gun you on said rotation. So we'll start things off with raw input, looking at original, and you can hear the communication going through immediately inside of factory. Loot up as fast as possible, try to chase down as many kills as you can. Maybe you might be able to find a team off guard.
Yeah, this is a team that kind of falls in the same conversation as Vera's squad. 5th place finish for raw input with only 7 total kills. So I love the fact that we're already communicating something new and different as far as how we want to try to get the early game going. Also a reminder, if you're joining us here late, no weapon restrictions at all. No restrictions in any form coming into this. It's, again, just kind of a pilot test as far as how would a competitive Warzone feature work. And obviously things like adjustments and tuning could happen in the future, but nothing is going to be limited here into this one. But we jump over to Clumsy and Rivera as we get into their top loadout area. But to say it looks like they're being contested, and yeah, that's 100% the case. LMG's at range, and it's Hewley that was able to find the easy kill, just kind of snaking that back heady.
Yeah, again, no restrictions. LMGs, rocket launchers, use whatever is possible. Clumsy's also going to get knocked down as well. We'll swap perspectives over towards Flank Tech. This is your drop number 1 winner. And it seems like they're a little worse for wear this time around going over inside of Chem Allen. They seem to be slightly contested. Armor plate's not exactly bountiful inside of Jelly's back pocket.
Yeah.
And Flank doesn't look to be even in a better spot as well. It seems that they are coexisting with another team around this Chem building.
Yeah, nothing in the back pocket. No armor, no ammunition, maybe a ball, and that's about all he's got right now. But it looks like for the most part, even though there was obviously a more heavy contest here through Chem, you just kind of can see the kills right here. 3 kills for Intex top right. Bottom right, I have to imagine that's probably Jelly's POV. 2 kills for Jelly. And we obviously can't really see what Smixy's been able to put together, but she's feeling very animate in the comms. I imagine she's got a little bit of a hot hand right here, and she's actually got one, as our producer tells us. So I mean, hey, it was a difficult start for you, but you were able to tally up early kills, and now we can kind of do the whole sharing is caring mindset while we get a little bit of ammunition out of the neutral box and a couple of armor plates to be shared.
And you can see even just flanked up in the top left corner of your screen, going towards that buy station that's on the back side of Chem. And this is almost like a rinse, wash, repeat of what we ended up seeing from Flank Tech in that first drop out. And they were able to stay alive. They were able to at least share the loot, try to reinforce the stairwell with a couple of claymores. Hey, why not? But going to be coming down towards a rotation. I'm sure not this gas pole, but the next one to be certain. As they are just playing on top of these windows, maybe looking for that jump to be able to get up top of the loadout, get through the roof.
There it is.
Do it. There it is.
Everyone was about to give up, and it's like, Flank's like, I got it. What's wrong with you guys?
I got it. Why?
Somebody don't hit it. So he gets still there.
Ammo's the issue here, though.
That's fair.
Sorry, Joey. Wait, I dropped a buy station.
Well, it looks like they're just going to hold this position for now, and we jump over to Blue and Co. Nice little knock as they're trying to chase down the bounty that they were able to collect. Zepti is down for now, but is going to be revived no problem. And, oh, yeah, they definitely just cleaned up some action there on the second floor. Loot galore all over the place, and the player that's on the bounty of fuel is out of there. Already leaving, and, oh, how about the snapshot, though? Gets information that there are players on top of them, but
My level now at the end of the hallway.
do you follow through with this? And maybe not even need to, because Blue's able to track down one player through this back doorway.
Yeah,
And keep in mind, they're actually fighting two different teams here. As you saw, that Clumsy did end up going down. That's from #HP, and then they also found IQ. That is Team Tiberius Khan. Very interesting name, but Team Nick is on there. Picnic and Nick Cool on Tiberius Khan. Very interesting to see how they are going to be looking for a slight bit of a bounce back, especially losing some players early on. Almost, again, another rinse, wash, repeat coming out from Team Goats. Maybe they ended up landing adjacent to where Flank Tech worked previously. They found the rotation inside of the prison block, and they are sustaining for
I have
now.
another one too. I have one.
Okay, another snapshot. Nothing this time around.
Nothing. I could have moved in.
So these comms are very active. It's been really fun to kind of listen in to see what they want to do here. As we already, again, once more, a neutral circle, dead center, but two teams have already been eliminated. So, again, a different dynamic to this group than what we had seen in our previous. But we take a look at Finessin,
Do you know where from?
Can we zip up? Zip up.
who finished in 6th position in their opener with only 10 total kills tallied. So some work to be done here, especially if you want to get yourself into the top 4 conversation early. Ebate's able to take down at least one knock for the moment. Finessin trying to follow up, but is well behind his teammate. Snapshot at the top side, but nades coming out from both sides. Assists and eliminations being tallied while Ebates is trying to get revived, and it looks like this fight has largely been quelled, and there will be a bit of a backup for both sides here as there's just too many suffering losses on either side.
Yeah, it's just very tough to be able to commit all the way down to the bottom of the staircase. You never know who's going to be ratting in any one of these corners. His team Dad Bods will sustain in the stairwell for now. Ebates, Rida, DJ Moss, and Finessin able to find themselves some kills along the way. And they're looking very healthy, and not only just in the bottom left hand of the UI, but I mean, you can see full armor satchel in the hands of Finessin, has a lot of ammo, does have that reinforcement for the box if they ended up running out of any lethals or ammo, whatever may have you. They are set up quite wonderfully here inside this building just outside of dock.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you've got the ability to kind of watch down towards the ship. And you're really, I would say, honestly, from this position, I was going to say, like, you've got a good look at the higher ground that's kind of right next to you without really exposing yourself to the rooftops of that next tier if you don't want to. But obviously, there might be the call for a rotation to come in, so you have to be kind of cautious about what exactly you commit to as far as your positioning. Going to get the deployable buy station. Nice addition into Rebirth. Helping just in case you want to get extra UAVs. Did Finesse not see that player up top? I don't think he did. There's a player right in front of him up on top of that building, but his eyes were elsewhere, and, well, it's fine for now. Again, you can just wait for the second round to expire and then see where the rotation's going to go. I will say, though, again, comparing this group to the last, a lot more just kind of static gameplay coming through until they're forced to move, where we saw a lot more proactivity in the last group.
Yeah, you would definitely assume that there's more alive in this lobby comparatively to where we were the last time around when we still had 8 squads remaining. Only 4 players missing in total from the lobby.
I'm good. I'm just gonna stay back on the
8
back.
total
I wanna
squads,
grab
so
the prison.
definitely a lot of speed, I would say so. Rido will go down, but the revive will end up being here. Still is soon to follow, so gonna be interesting to be able to see what everybody ends up buying. Self-revive kits just about on all 29 players inside the lobby. I'm sure of it if you can get to a buy station.
Oh my god.
Ooh,
Nice shot.
nice shot. And also, DJ is able to get a knock plus confirm the elimination. One more up top, and well, that was a play up the zip line, you would have to imagine. But the eliminations come through. More players still being pinged on top of the warehouses in front, but not much action to follow from this point of view. But hey, you still appreciate the extra kill being tallied for essentially free. Thanks for contesting. Now, the question is going to be, as this fire sale is going to come to a close, and with 30 seconds of the clock for this third round, you got to get all the way up. And DJ's currently making a move forward. I think he maybe rode the gondola maybe for a second to get up there, but regardless, you have a tough rotation in front of you. And, well, we'll take a look over to Twisty's point of view, who's coming in off of a bye, or probably a natural rebirth coming in, trying to work this bottom location with a teammate. And the problem about this is you can't stay here for very long. You got to get going.
Yeah, you do indeed have to start rotating very, very soon. As you can see, the redeploy will be expiring in about a minute. You don't want to be going down anytime soon. And just as soon as they try to get up towards the next landing of the staircase, they meet their ultimate demise. Now it's all up to Epic, and, well, they can't stay alive much longer at all. Out at 8th place will be Team Twisty and Co. Twisty, A's, Rush, and Epic will have to go back to the drawing board for drop number 3. We'll hop back over towards another perspective here on board with Pool. Again, who is just playing on this high ground. But again, the same question will still reside itself. You have to try to rotate, but you also have to keep in mind these players that are on top side of that watchtower will be able to gun you on this lower side of the zone.
That's very true. A lot of things to consider. A lot of things to consider. And how about this? De Niro's point of view, way up high, but with a sniper rifle. The problem with this is, I was about to say, someone could easily just immediately team shot you back or snipe you back. That's kind of the problematic spot of holding on to a Carnage. And wait a second. Finessin pulled out a bow to get that kill?
Yeah, the combat bow, man. Here, you're able to at least get that AoE damage, get the final blow up top. That is just such a fantastic way of dealing with a knock player inside of the watchtower like that. And, well, now you're going to be playing this a rather abbreviated, as you do see the redeploys are fully disabled. Vera can't not get past Finessin up on this rooftop. Zone's going to start closing in, and this is going to be playing against a lot of these teams that are on the outskirts, but a lot of information is coming through here for Team Dadbods. They are looking pretty darn healthy, as Finessin still has the combat bow to play with.
Dude, I love this. I love this. Okay, so that was, I think he's on a different delay from what we'd had before. Oh, now it's just down to, can you pick him out from the skies? Looking for more free kills. He's been hitting these shots lately, but these one a bit more elusive than the ones previously, but still a little combat bow comedy coming out of Finessin. Next shot coming through, not going to connect, but it's fine. The AR shots from below will at least get the knock. I don't know if they fully confirmed the kill or not, but regardless, a really good position. And I'm telling you, this combat bow is coming out different. Think about this thing clearing up all these angles. I mean, you don't restrict something, and, well, you see exactly what Finessin's going to do to punish that.
Yeah, I think even like traditional Call of Duty, right? You know, even like a frag grenade and traditional 4v4 Vanguard, you get the information, you get some early damage. That should be able to be an immediate push to come all the way through. The information specifically, but Dadbods, they are feeling the ante. They want to push on into here. You can see that the big game bounty will be on Clumsy, so that's going to be a coexisting team not too far away from them. That's Team HB, who I believe are playing abbreviated from Dadbods at the time being. So they're going to be just holding the space for now. Take a quick look at Flank Tech, who, again, all 4 players are still alive. Stim play will be in effect here for Flank, who goes back towards the buy station. But the question is, how long?
He buys those 2 teammates back, by the way. That's the whole call for that play. And with the stim shots, he's able to keep himself alive. What a play from Flanked. So now all 4 players are in. The problem is, can they find any weapons? And how about the turn up from Flanked? Sees another player up top for a moment there. Cluster strike on the way in. Has to bail out, but honestly, he's the only player on the high ground here. So yeah, you lose all your teammates, but you gave yourself a chance to create a bit of a buffer between you and everybody else. 13 total players, 6 total squads. And Flanked may have just big-brained this entire lobby. He's by far the furthest player in the zone.
And the biggest problem are there all these cluster strikes. Has to give up the high ground for now. Has to find refuge inside one of the sturdiest tents I've ever seen in my life. We'll at least see one player cross inside. Here comes the double chow. Does get the knock, but a nice try indeed. They're out at 4th, but decent amount of kills to boot.
almost got the top 3 as well. That's what they're talking about right there. And it was Lovey that got the kill very quickly. This is Lovey on screen right now, I believe, that we're watching. Oh, no, it's flanked, actually. This is from that POV he just died. Okay, so that was Lovey that was able to get through that doorway, I believe, to get that elimination. Yeah, I just said so in the kill feed. Aloha Mai is just trying to surf their way into the top 3. Again, everyone's POVs is a little bit delayed from one another. But Aloha Mai actually could be in a position here to follow up, depending on the timing of getting down, but maybe not. No, it's not Aloha Mai. Just kidding. That was the last kill coming through, so... Wow, 9 kills for Fidessen, 8 for DJ. That is a massive win coming into that team before.
Oh, absolutely. Team Dadbods, you know, we saw a lot from them all throughout the entirety of drop number 2. They were not only able to find themselves those very quick and early rotations that we were continuously talking about since the top of the broadcast, they were seemingly winning almost every single team fight that they were getting into.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I gotta lay down in the tent. Fuck it.
I just love listening to the player comms at the end. But no, that's a massive game. So what? That was 17, probably close to 25 total kills that we saw right there. Times the 2, 50-point game, casual. They saw it there for a second. I didn't get a chance to read it all. But if that's a second...
24 total kills on.
24, so 48-point game. That will do well for a top 4 placement for now, no problem. Oh, wow. Unbelievable tally. Some others scores are already being reported, though. We kind of saw for a moment there a Mars team. We talked about how they finished 5th in lobby number 1 with only 7 total kills. They finished in 5th again and with only 9 kills. So... Lobby 3 and Lobby 4 need to be miracle works for Amar and the Raw Input squad. Really like that, who is Caleb, Oxcord, Let's Go Champ, and Nostradamus. 2 10th place finishes in a row. They need to figure out what they want to do after their drop here proper.
Yeah, and now you have to be able to take those immediate adaptations. Again, we were already kind of hinting at that going in towards drop number 2 comparatively to drop number 1, try to rectify a very early exit specifically for the team that just won it for Dadbods. And that was the key point of aggression, was doing it together, though. Finding the gunfights, winning said gunfights, and winning the entire lobby with all 4 players still alive, keep it more or less healthy towards the final moments of the ending of that drop number 2. So some immediate adaptations do need to come through from those bottom barrel teams to be able to find yourself some similar point values. It doesn't always have to be a win. You have to be able to find yourself those favorable gunfights. Those kills need to be there to at least guarantee that top 3 placing for that 1.5 times multiplier.
I will say, though, for Dadbods, we'll take a look at the final scores after we get back from our break they're about to take. But coming off of that 6th place position in round number 1 with a 10-point into the highest total lobby that we've seen so far has already broken the average of what they would need to, not just to finish top 4, but if you're comparing it to the previous group, they've broken the average needed to win the group. So there's some things to consider, but we'll step away for a brief break, tally up the leaderboard, come back before drop number 3 commences. Don't go far, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We are halfway through our final qualification group. We've been saying these words pretty much all night. If you're joining us here late, you may be a little bit puzzled on maybe what exactly the format looks like. So just one more time, very briefly, we'll just kind of re-explain kind of how we got to where we currently are with these teams and who will be moving forward and how exactly that will all fare. So everything started with completely open qualifiers. You just dropped in to open public Resurgence Rebirth Quads playlists, and you were able to tally up your 10 best overall performances. Those were going to be cumulatively combined and then used for your overall scoring. The top 40 total teams from that then moved into the qualification stage, split up of 10 teams between 4 different groups. Those were 4 lobbies, the same situation that we're playing here this evening, but those were taking place over the course of the last 4 days. And the top 5 from each of that group play would then move into our second round of the qualification stage, which we've been tackling here on broadcast all night. We already got our top 4 teams from Group E to move on to the semis. Now we're looking in Group F to find out who exactly will join them. And where does the standings currently sit at the moment? Well, it's the 4 teams that I'm sure most people would have expected to be in the top 4. Goats, Flank Tech Dadbods, and Tiberius Khan all sitting well above 40 points and creating a bit of separation between the rest of the field. I'll say this much proper. I think the one team that we were kind of maybe looking at to potentially do more was that HB squad that has Vera, Legit Fuel, and Clumsy. But so far, just not a lot of total kills tallied up in their 2 performances that we've seen.
Yeah, and on the opposite side of that spectrum, the times when we have been seeing them, it's in the kill feed in not so great of a fashion. And it really feels like that when they are getting... Yeah, wrong side of the kill feed indeed. And when they are finding themselves on the wrong side of the kill feed, it feels like they're much more isolated comparatively to what we've seen out of the top 4 teams of Goats, Flank Tech, Dadbods, and Tiberius Khan. You really need to be able to almost take a page out of these top 4 squads' books and just try to at least find some semblance of... not necessarily holding hands, but being in a position to be able to double swing on opponents, being able to find yourself a lot of good early damage, whether that's Semtaxes or if you are finessing a combat bow, I suppose, but even more so than that, being able to follow up on that damage that soon is found. So it's going to be interesting to be able to see if any of these bottom 5 teams can start beckoning and knocking on the door to find themselves in a position to try to get that 4th spot, maybe put themselves in towards semifinals.
We jump on into the Goats team that currently is in first place. 2 second-place finishes in a row. The last game, they tallied 40.5 points. Huge kill tallies being put together for them, even though they weren't quite able to get blue into a position to win the last bit of that 1v1. Still, obviously, a great start. Opening rocket because why not? Just see what hits. You just never know sometimes. But blue's going to head back over into the bottom side of Chem, look for some more traditional weaponry. And you kind of heard them making the calls. Hey, we've got a buy near us, but we don't have many contracts. So the ability to quickly tally up cash may be a bit amiss. Has to do it the old-fashioned way, just run and collect.
Again, just imagine blue with the early RPG, trying to find some early damage. And this is a conversation we haven't really talked about, but when you are playing these Rebirth tournaments in such close proximity with each other, we've talked about it a handful of times where teams and individuals are running low on armor plates. This early damage is very good for that. You almost want to exhaust the resources of any adversaries around the way, whether it's over by labs, it's over by chem, whatever may have you. That seems to be the immediate call, especially for Goats, as they are constantly trying to find any damage as possible, while also looting up and getting their loadies closer and closer.
Take a look at 3 of the perspectives, though, as they continue to kind of look back over towards the White Warehouse to their east. Nothing really showing at the moment. But honestly, as far as early loadout is concerned, not the worst weaponry you've ever seen in your life. A lot of purple and blue coming through. Obviously, some traditional ARs being worked with. Gravitas currently for Zepti. So you got some at least good firepower. And hey, I mean, you're in a comfortable spot in the leaderboard. Don't give anything away here. Just make sure you isolate, really, is honestly what we're looking at. Because this is, again, just so different than what we had in our first group, because all of our major teams that are currently in the top 4 have largely been waiting to see where the first circle is going to push to before they make a play. Although I kind of immediately get counteracted by the play forward, as it does look like they are trying to make a play in towards this squad that's playing the backside. And well, that gunfight not really going all that well for him.
Oh, 2 players immediately just hightailing the heck out of there, making sure that they can stay alive, make sure that the redeploy system at least brings their teammates back into a much more favorable position. But Yeah, I mean, they had the read that there was a player inside of that white warehouse inside of labs, but even more so than that, Alan, they were feeling the ante to be able to make that push happen. You walk away with the early team wipe, you get the KP, that would have been great. It comes up flat, and now you're in a much more uphill battle situation.
Yeah, that's for sure. Head on over to Flank Tech, or we're trying to. There we go. Same positions. Hey, I mean, you want to talk about just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Same chem engineering drop for these four. Flank does continue to try to chip away at players with a sniper rifle floating on in. Gets an armor tag, but nothing more. Ooh, okay, so they're actually in a really good spot to maybe have impeded some of that play from Blue's team just to their north, just based on the fact that if they were able to get a couple of sniper shots or just AR rifle shots into the mix, they may have been a part of that fight in some regard, although you look across the kills and there's only one to speak of, and that's on Jelly bottom right, so not contested this time. Looks like everyone who was trying to fight for this position for the first two lobbies have decided it's not worth the energy. So free drop comes out, but once again, kind of a similar situation. Not a lot of great weaponry to play with, nor cash.
Yeah, no cash. We're going to be running low on ammo, maybe, but you still have a lot of sniper bullets to be playing with if you are flanked, and that'll put a smile on his face, I'm sure. So this is almost a similar look of what we had going back towards drop number 1, isn't it, Alan? Where we had, again, just Team Goats trying to contest inside the warehouse. You got Chem Engineering building just in favorable position so far for Flank Tech, but you try to push just a little bit too far. Jelly and Intex will go down. It seems that Intex ended up going down up top, but you can hear even say from the teammates just try to make an egregious push towards a player that was in the bottom side of this building. They get absolutely blown to bits, so no trades will be coming through, but at least the position is being held for the time being for Flank and Spixy.
I was just imagining when you saw Jelly drop over there, imagine a world where Flank's able to hit that shot and save his teammate for a second. That would have been sick.
That's cinematic.
It would have been. But only thing that will be tallied is the kill from the player on top of the water tower for now. Intex in trouble off the drop. I think he was trying to make a play for the Lodi. Not going to work out for him. That's the other problem. You don't have the cash to buy your own. Look where the neutral drop put it, but put him in the middle of no man's land, probably in between about 3 or 4 different squads. So now you kind of have to carry this the rest of the way, and Flank does not expect to get sniped. That'll drop him and force him to have to use the self-revive most likely. Maybe Jelly's going to come save him.
Yeah, Jelly's going to come right here and just get that last tap to make sure that the self-revive stays preserved. Still has 6 armor plates. Inside of the satchel will be diminished down to 3 once they're back up to full. So still in a position to be able to utilize this UAV, try to help out Smixy, who's trying to push this this team. This one individual player that's on the outside of the docks. Flank can't hit the shot. That's going to make Smixy's job a little more difficult.
Custom MP40, though, for Jelly. On the way in, Intex not too far away. It's Goro who drops in the kill feed. But the problem is whoever is sniping up against this quad is actually hitting some pretty nasty shots at the moment. Jelly, no more armor plates, but still committing forward. Everything gets tense, but you see all the information off the UAV. You hear him calling it. So many people into prison. This is an opportunity, they feel like, to get the south side of the map just completely in their control by pushing forward and taking these key buildings away. This is a really heads-up play.
Trying to maneuver away from the northeast side of the entirety of the map to maybe even the southeast side. You can see them just on the north side of Factory currently, just maybe trying to almost question the idea. Do we push all the way through and try to play with this high ground, or we just sit inside of this dock building? And it seems that they're going to want to sit inside of the dock building, play around here for the time being. Smixy's also making calls that there are players around here at the same moment of time, so it's just about holding the line, make sure that nobody overextends. This team has been doing such a great job through our first drops in this third, being so close together, apart from that egregious push that came through from Jelly a few moments ago.
Yeah, re-wrapping back, interestingly enough, maybe just feeling that the circle is going to be more likely to pull towards where they were in Chem. Also, you got a little bit more cash to come back to the buy station and get a little bit more. And here's the call. Players nearby, easy elimination. Player looking to play off the neutral loadout, but there are more nearby. Coming right at actually where they had just left just a moment ago. A couple of shots back and forth, and Intex is being hunted, and that looks like the play. I mean, it's a red level threat, and it really is just Smixer to play bodyguard. At the moment, Flanked is nowhere nearby. He's kind of just sitting on top, probably just overwatching with a sniper rifle.
They're in that building.
Knowing Flake's play absolutely is going to be the case, and
oh my god.
going to immediately try to rotate all the way out. did her sniper connection. I think that's happening on another stream. It kind of
That's flanked, yeah.
confused me because I saw Smixy's play with an XM4 and an Owen gun, and I'm just like, there's no way. Imagine though, just having a pocket sniper like that. But yeah, flank will end up at least finding that shot. At least end up getting themselves that knock. But that threat level turned from red all the way down to that first bar, so at least they're finding that refuge again. But the problem is that they're outside of the next zone pull.
Yep. And this third circle will probably get us to where the redeploys will be nixed out, as we still have 9 total teams left. Jelly will fall, but of course, we'll have no problem to get the Resurgence countdown, you would have to imagine. We'll head over to Tiberius Khan, and this is Team Tiberius Khan, I should say, with IQ on your screen as the fire sale is over. And you maybe have to wonder, was it maybe IQ that was sniping against Flank there for a moment? Because he's on a high ground position that could have countered, and he's got 4 total kills tallied. So a good lobby here. This team, like we had mentioned, is doing a great job with total kills, just missing out on the multipliers barely.
Yeah, and you would really feel like that they are just one position away from maybe trying to garner that second, if not first place position with this nice high ground control that is on the top side of Prison. But even more so than that, too, this is a lot of high ground that you're going to be looking to control on 2 different sides, right? You can be contested from opposite sides if you're all tunnel vision on one specific play. Isolated down low will be Xeon, and you want to be at least cognizant that you have to at least make that play efficient enough to maybe even find some kills along the way, but at least have the safety of Team Nick that is up top overwatching the entire play.
Yeah, you can kind of see with that advanced UAV expiring, there was a full team in that one house that was kind of between Zen and down low and the rest of his teammates on the high ground. IQ hoping for something to connect. Nothing there. Take a moment, check chat, refresh, and back at it.
Xenon's got a great position going forward as well. You can see where the ring is currently resting at is up on the upper watchtower. They're more than aware of that team, as you called. 4-player squad inside of that building. Lots of clay pigeons in the air. It just comes down to hitting the shots.
Well, it sounded like Nick had gotten one, so that player kind of just limp-bodied, falling to the ground rapidly.
Sounds terrible when you say it like that.
I know, right? It's the worst. But no more respawns now into the mix. At least not off of the game mode's capabilities. 35 seconds before you have to rotate as well. And this high ground with these players that are still floating in may not be as safe as you once thought it was. I mean, you don't expect them to have maybe the greatest loadouts in the world, these players that are floating in, but they are likely going to be kind of encompassing some of that top rooftop or some of the upper echelon floors. As we look over to Team Twisty, in the mix, definitely looking to upset and get themselves in the top 4. A lot of kills independently for Twisty as well, and we kind of saw the scoreboard. It looked like they're well over the double-digit mark, threatening 20 kills, and there's still 9 total teams. So you survive through this bounty, or maybe even track down Zepti on the bounty. You may have prison control, at least on this lower level, as you look to rotate deeper.
Yeah, and you can even see, too, inside of the prison block, that is the northwest side. It has a little bit of refuge to play with. That's more or less I guess would be in control for Team Tiberius Khan that is up top. They can have that high ground to play with. And inside, you could also just be playing that corner, just waiting for the next zone pull. But that doesn't mean that you're safe. For more players just rotating on in. Snapshot Grenade will reveal their position. They're going to start cleaning up these players. We'll end up finding one. That's another team wipe coming through. 7 squads remaining.
Yeah, this is a critical moment in this lobby where it's going to start being picked apart left, right, and center. And honestly, you look at where the circle is, you have to feel like a lot of players and teams are thinking, ooh, we got to contest for prison control because it's the only interior that's still alive in this circle. Yeah. And you can kind of see that's the case, at least the mind mentality for Team Twisty, because they are all over this one corner that will still be in play. Now, the question about this is obviously there is a basement that you have to worry about, a rooftop that you have to worry about, and with you already kind of giving up some of the interior of this circle, teams could still rotate into you. So you got to be a little bit careful, I think, about how you maneuver from this position. And you can even hear the calls. Yeah, we just got to make sure no one's right below us. They might be right. Yeah, they sure are. I mean, you're going to be able to watch them come out of this doorway right here. This will be a really easy pick, you would have to feel.
Depends on who else is watching this go down. Here comes the window jump. Immediate knock will come through for Twisty. He's under the immediate pressure from the gas. Does have the mask to at least keep themselves safe for now, but that one knock, you would assume should at least be cleaned up, but Team Tiberius Khan will take a look at them, who does have that high ground position. They are soaking up inside of the gas. They are looking for a lot of good damage to come all the way through, and they will come soaring on in, just dealing with all these players inside the tree line. Now inside the gas, they can turn and burn.
Yeah, this is great news for IQ and Co. They've got players that are absolutely stuck trying to work down to this low ground. Circle's starting to move just a touch. Another player nearby. I mean, I don't even know how you would see anything through that. I don't know if IQ's just got different stream settings, but he's looking into there as if he could pick players apart. 4 total teams remaining, 9 total players, still outside of the multipliers. How big could that possibly be for IQ and Co? One more, stuck inside this outside hut. No more armor plates for IQ. Trust the sniper rifle to hit. Not going to get given the opportunity as Picnic's going to fall right in front, and we still are at 4 teams. We're still not in the multiplier yet.
5 players total missing from these 4 squads. Some abbreviation coming all the way through. Nickel is going to go down as well. We'll be able to find that last kill. The trusty sniper, and then turns with the SMG in hand to help out a teammate up top. There it absolutely is. Does get the multiplier. Eats a quick snack of success coming through from drop number 3. We talked about on drop number 1 and 2. They were finishing outside of the multiplier, but a fantastic game 3 coming through from Team Tiberius Con.
27. Holy. Go ahead and set the tone, why don't you, boys? That is an wow, that is an unbelievable finish for them. After an 8th place finish with 22 kills, a 5th place finish with 22 kills.
Jeez.
Now you're going to add 54 points with that win. And IQ's just quick snipe into the quick help. Granted, that last player was about 1 HP, but still, impressive mechanics nonetheless, where you hear the comp saying, we just need 1 place, we need 1 place. Oh, wait, we won. It's literally that quick.
That's how it truly feels sometime, right? Like when we were talking about how all the squads were abbreviated, that it could end up coming down to just 1 more player, 1 rat that was just trying to make that last-ditch effort play coming all the way through. But all corners of that final zone, I don't know why I'm calling it corners because the zone is in fact a circle, but even still, we're all squeaky clean when it came down for Team Tiberius Con. To be able to find all the kills and being able to find the information on the players as well. That's what's most important. When we go down from 7 all the way to 4 squads within those final few moments,
yeah.
What Team Tiberius Con did so well is that they made sure that they had information on every single team that was rotating in, and then made sure that there was at least 2 players on at least 1 player trying to rotate in from one opposite side. If they was just isolated and the trust play to come through that you're just going to win your ones like that, things could have gone absolutely south for Tiberius Con, but they make sure that they at least keep all corners clean. They walk away with a W, 54 points. That is beckoning to be able to take first place after that.
They'll be fine. They're top 4.
They're okay.
I think we could probably say that. But we're going to tally the rest of the leaderboard as we step away for a brief break and then give you the debrief as we set up for our 4th and final lobby in our final qualification group here for the CDL Resurgence. So don't go too far. We'll be back on the next side of the break. One last lobby to play, and our top 4 is still pretty much cemented, but there are some contenders that are starting to make its way through. And hey, when you got teams that are pulling 54-point wins, anything could still happen. I mean that very literally. But let's take a look at the leaderboard here quickly before we jump into lobby number 4. Tiberius Khan, as mentioned, they're comfortable. 98 points. I imagine that would be good enough for a top 4 spot. Goats, Dad Bods, and Flank Tech still in a position for the top 4, but Twisty and Co. narrowing the gap, and then on the other side, Team Diverge also in the hunt. So you need to put together consistent runs here if you're Goats, Dad Bods, or Flank Tech. Unfortunately, really, for all the other 4, it would take a 54-point game to do something here, and even that may not be fully enough. So miracles would have to exist for the bottom 4 teams, but for the teams that find themselves largely, I would say, from 2nd to 6th, it's definitely still doable.
Look, for raw input and really like that, you would not only need probably about a collective 60 points, you would need 30 kills plus the W. You would also need Tiberius Khan, Goats, Dad Bods, Flank Tech, and Twisty and Co. to probably all meet a very swift and early demise, which doesn't seem to be happening given how safe, I guess relatively safe Goats were looking like inside of Decon Zone before they egregiously pushed inside of the Labs warehouse. And the same could be said over there for Flank Tech, where they have just consistently been dropping inside of chem engineering and just been finding themselves a lot of good kills, a lot of good early loot, and then has just been swiftly moving along with the zones. They're the team to be able to watch out for, I would say, going into drop number 4, because they are the ones that is almost on the bubble to almost lose out if one of the other teams in 5th and 6th find themselves with a strong game here.
Yeah, really, with those 2 teams dropping in those 2 locations, they're not really leaving a lot of the map for anyone else to play on.
True.
And maybe there is something to be said about all of the 4 total teams that are kind of currently in the top 4. You expect them to be there. If they're dominating 4 different corners of the island, everybody else is just like, where do we go? There's not many places for us to actually loot or find any weaponry. So I don't know, maybe something to be said about that. And I think just, again, for the teams that already qualified that we saw from our previous group, and whoever the 4 are that qualify out of this one, look, I'm telling you, whoever represents those CDL teams, whether they're the CDL players themselves or the signed content creators, you're going to be dealing with some heavy hitters coming out of both those 2 groups. So let's see. 4th and final lobby.
By the way, because they just literally, I just downed them and they
Flank just gives us one last stretch. Looks like majority of the island will be in after this first circle, so no need to really stress, I would say, if you are landing over towards, for instance, like down here by Stronghold or anything like that. But you expect that, as you mentioned, Decon and Chem are likely going to be taken over by our 2 top teams at the moment.
Oh, absolutely, they will be. And what we've been seeing from Tiberius Khan more often than not, they've been taking over Prison Break and have been sitting themselves up top inside a prison block for the majority of these games. And that seems to be a common occurrence for our top 3 squads so far, Alan. And even more so than that, it just comes down to the other ones trying to maybe take a very early aggressive push towards another one of these teams. And how about it? You see just a helicopter flying immediately in towards Decon Zone. Wonder if that's going to be a frenemy of Goats, if not a full-on friend. Very interesting to see how that one might play out.
We'll see. Already getting the loadout. This is actually the first time that we've actually seen Flank Tech earn enough cash to get the early loadout. So now I'm kind of curious. Since they have the loadouts that they want, will this maybe inspire them to play a little bit more aggressively? We'll see. They are being hunted, and it's by Jelly. Oh, no, it's Jelly that's being hunted, I should say. And he's already level orange on the threat, so someone is pretty darn close. Although, to be fair, like if you're within anywhere near the same side of the island, it's usually already orange. But still, to be a little bit cautious, and I would imagine that with the favored weapons that they have, you probably just hold here until that manhunt expires before you make any moves.
Flank back to their old devious ways. Sniper inside of the pantry window. Just looking to see if they can find a couple of pot shots. Communications coming all the way through. Again, they know that there's obviously going to be a team inside of Decon, but more importantly than that, the question will still reside here. Once this bounty does, of course, go all the way through, where do they try to rotate out towards? And Smixy will actually be knocked here, but not in a position for that enemy team to try to push here. Smixy should be revived.
Yeah, shouldn't be too much stress. None at all, actually. Just 0 stress at all.
No sweat.
No. And it's just the fact that, you know, it's curious because at a certain point, you have to wonder if no one is going to contest you off your drop. Do you start to feel like, you have to go kill hunting. Like, just because you want to keep yourself in the running. You don't want to wait until the very end of the game. Although that said, again, like over towards Harbor, they've gotten these free looks on this building literally every single drop so far.
To answer your question just about waiting for the final moments to be able to find those kills, look, once Zone 3 does close all the way in, kills aren't exactly something that you can just find all willy-nilly comparatively to now, when everybody is constantly being rebirthed in towards play. And as we'll swap over towards perspectives, here is Team Twisty, who again is sitting on the bubble, just at about 5th place right now. We need a very big game here, and while being able to find a couple kills inside of Prison Block would be able to at least guarantee that Epic can come down relatively safely. And I say relatively, just depends on who's sniping up top.
Ooh, team is actually contesting them, it looks like, from a multitude of different levels here by the Prison Block itself. And it's not just the fact that you want to be able to get a lot of kills here. You would love to be able to do it without losing too much, just simply due to the fact that you don't want to be coming off of like a parachute train. Nice read onto one. That was Pool that falls, instantly killed. IQ is also in the mix here. You see that kind of from Rush's perspective, able to get the down in the full finish. So, I mean, it's a little bit chaotic around the mix, but that's a major opponent that you're able to at least take off the board for now. And maybe you'll gain a little bit of a buffer between you and the remaining portions of IQ's team. Although, another contestant trying to take around the back, no problems. Another elimination killed. That's 4 kills early on here just for Twisty. This has been going very well for them.
And this is Tiberius Khan just full sending on to everybody from Team Twisty and co. And that all said, we have to be very careful if you are Tiberius Khan. You are safe enough. Well, look, we already said off of that impressive 54-point game that you are guaranteed to at least make it towards semifinals. So it almost looks like that they're looking to grieve as many different teams and almost just running and gunning a whole bunch of individuals, trying to put on a show, our Tiberius Khan.
Yeah. He got me. Wow, they're getting picked apart, and I think this is probably the time where you just got to say, okay, we got to hit the brakes here. Let's get everybody back as a full group of 4, if you're even allowed to, though. I mean, Nick is currently being hunted. That's a good first elimination in the mix. And Nick is a little bit separated from where IQ is, so maybe a little bit of space to work with. Oh, goodness, IQ. Just a bit wide. And the calls that are coming through, yeah, now you're able to slot yourself into this building, stay a little bit more cautious, get everybody back, and then fight as a group of 4. That's the right call to make, and it looks like they're going to be successful, at least getting one down to the ground.
Yeah, it's not a pub, remember that. Yeah. Has some semblance of it, but not always. Down to 8 squads. A lot of pushes happening on the bottom side. Immediately hits a stim shot. We'll swap over. This is Duvera's POV from #HB. Looking to at least keep the top floor in their favor. And Tiberius, Team Tiberius, I believe, will end up getting fully eliminated here, is what our producer is saying. Still 9 squads remaining here, Alan, and well, here comes a push inside. Duvera absolutely unaware that IQ was up here. That will make the heads-up play and wipe Duvera back and towards the respawn screen.
Yeah, Clumsy also down, so it's Fuel and Legit the last 2 to try to survive. Again, they're in a pretty terrible spot when it comes to trying to work into the top 4. But Circle has taken away most of the left side of the map. And Legit's the last player left, or is that the full wipe coming through? Hard to say. Oh, no, Legit's still alive. Oh, just barely. Oh, my God. Holy. Devere just barely got into the parachute before Legit fell, and even still the outcome, maybe a foregone conclusion. Can you get your other teammate into the sky? Yeah, Clumsy's able to get back through, and you actually land into a loadout drop, so Devere could finish this off, or at least continue to fight. But again, they're so far away from a top 4 position, they're pretty much out of the running unless they were to clean up the rest of this lobby a couple times over.
Yeah, it would literally have to be, and that Semtex isn't going to help anybody, and then immediately slides right back into another person, and, well, that's going to be TB Licky. That's going to end up taking them out of commission with their own Owen gun, and yeah, I mean, if you are #HB, you are just so isolated trying to play the ever-long cycle of rebirthing everybody on your team, but well, I don't want to say it's out of the question that they could clean up the entirety of the lobby, Alan, but it's definitely looking like it might be out of it. I'm very optimistic.
Problematically so. Very optimistic for them.
Yeah, just land through the top window again.
We'll head on over to take a look to see how Blue, Lovey, Zepti, and Lonard are doing. You hear the calls coming out. Actually, part of this is actually Flank Tech that we're getting on screen here with Smixy and Co. And it looks like they very well may be down for the count here. It's just flanked the last one left, or pardon me, Intex the last one left. Does clean up the gunfight, but looks like he's going to get finished off here based on the other delays from his teammates. And yeah, that will be the full-on finish. And Intex not happy about it. I mean, they're going to be fine. Should be fine, I would imagine. But
it just all depends
Intex's
on
got
what
a
ends
point.
up happening with what happens with Twisty and Co. Right? Twisty and Co. are like really the only team that might be able to take away that 4th position, just being right outside that bubble. Only really maybe about like 5-7 points that are separating those two teams at this current juncture of time. As we'll swap perspective over towards Goats, should already guarantee themselves a top 4 positioning. Again, just taking firm control. They are putting on their best Warden impression with the amount of control that they have inside of the prison block.
not a lot of eliminations here, though. Only tallying a total of 4 that we can see on screen for the time being. But we'll see if they can still salvage their way through. Only 6 teams remaining as well, for what it's worth. I mean, this 3rd zone is about to come to a close. 60 seconds until no more redeployments will be in play. So you anticipate that as the circle comes rapidly inward, so also will the number of total squads, diminishing likely to our top 3 pretty quick. Ooh, top left, Blue in a little bit of trouble. Did not expect to be contested as quickly as he was. Calls for help, and help is there. Actually, it's a pinch from multiple sides by the look of it. And it's largely handled all right. And the call just to stay a little bit patient, wait for the next play to unfold. And, ooh, player down below, and Blue did not expect that. He will also drop here.
Blue also did not respect the call. Not looking to get greedy, looking for the final blow there, but will end up going down themselves. So take a look just up top again, just for Honored is just kind of putting themselves in a position that they have to hold this position. Zepti's on the opposite side of this building, pops the stim, looking to break some camera slides right into the enemy player, and that's going to be TB Lucky. That does go down, but the teammate just right around the corner, and at least looking at a couple of trades. So players will be rebirthed here, needing the final literal milliseconds before that deployment does get disabled.
Yeah, but the problem is you don't really have a lot of space to get into this zone. Blue's already lost all of his armor. Trying to hold on to a corner as he does the math. 10 kills. Should be okay. But again, it just really comes down to what is Twisty and Co. able to put together in this. And honestly, Team Diverge, who was just on the other side of the leaderboard in 6th place, they've been in the kill feed a lot. And if you were to look at their last 2 rounds, they were able to finish in the top 3. So they were sitting at 50 points going into this, but they've tallied up a number of kills on some of our major squads. And we take a look at what they're able to put together. De Niro's got 5 individually and a red card just in case he wants to go hunting. But I think the biggest thing here is, can you finish off, get to the top 3 with 15 plus kills? That's got to be at least the goal, if not 20 plus.
Yeah, with the redeployment obviously being disabled going forward, you want to be able to clean up the rest of this lobby truly going forward. The guard tower immediately going to be looked at here. They're going to at least get a ping that there is a player up top, seeing that that player does not exactly have fantastic weaponry. Pistols are not exactly snipers, though some could absolutely be argued to be so, but even more so than that, they have top prison block control, and that's a lot of high ground for this upcoming zone, Alan.
The thing about it is you cannot just be okay with staying on this high ground, because if this circle starts to get all the way into the inside, which it looks like it's going to, and you're not a part of any of these kills, you can miss the kill tally that you need to slip into the top 4. 5 total teams remaining, 15 total players. Oh my God. Here is Leonard up top, and he must have just loaded in and then dropped immediately. And how about this player comes right in front of him? That's Rush that will fall, but he can't get the stim shot off. And it's Eyes up top that's able to finish off that kill. None of those players are part of Team Diverge, though. So, again, missed opportunities as we go back over to De Niro's POV.
Yeah, and again, the immediate narrative is going to be looking at Team Diverge, another team that is on that bubble that can immediately contest Team Flank Tech, who was inside of the bubble, to almost get knocked out. They are out of commission for this drop number 4. It just comes down to being able to find these kills, and it seems that De Niro is at least having the understanding, or at least an idea that there's a player that's going to contest from up top on the rooftops, is playing the utmost edge of this gas. Some window shots coming through from up top, won't be able to find themselves any more kills. Down to 5 squads remaining with just 11 players.
And the thing about this is, as the circle continues to move further and further to the north, there's an opportunity to just be on the high ground and then watch players exit. We go back over to Finescen's POV.
We're here, on me.
DJ Ebates, the last two remaining in this squad of what is now 3.
That's all you need.
And here you get the call. Top 3, confirmed.
BDS? Or no?
But
Yeah,
is there much as far as kills are concerned? Finessence got nothing.
I have another one right here.
All right, we got placement. We got placement. You guys.
You have another
And here's the call. Yeah, we got placement. Now it's just about can you find the kills? Because there's still a lot of players that are remaining as more start to fall around them. You're hearing the call. I don't have many plates. There is an armor satchel nearby. That'll be swooped through to get collected. And, player above us there. I saw the shadow down low. I wasn't sure if that player was on the low ground or if that was the shadow from the high ground. We got our answer, and wouldn't you know it, it's De Niro and co.
And you hear the just exclaiming. They're looking for the kills. Intense will end up finding themselves. The abundance of these kills will drop down for the play is De Niro. Looking for the exits. They will be able to find it, but the return damage plus the gas
Yeah,
is going to
it's
end
gotta
up knocking
confirm
De
it.
Niro. Yeah, I mean, you have to, because we already talked about it. You have 2 players that are already rotated towards the zone. If you look at De Niro's mini-map,
Whoa.
they're going to guarantee themselves the Warzone victory there at the end. An abundance of kills to boot. The question comes through, was it enough to get in towards the top 4?
23 kills.
You
hear
had
it
to
there.
win
we,
that.
We had to win
You had
this.
to.
They absolutely did. They may have just bumped out Flank Tech, bro. I'm not lying. That actually could have been super clutch. They very well may have just secured a top 4 position with that final game.
23, that's...
They're doing the math right now. We'll find out here soon, but that was as clutch as it gets. We almost had it in the first group. I mean, Hex Tech in that last lobby put together 44, and they missed the cut by 6 points. This may have been more than enough here for Team Diverge to slip into the top 4.
It's just the difference in between where that 4th place to where they were residing at, what was it, 6 in total points, just sitting at about 50. That's what it's mostly going to come down to, is because they were able to keep it so damn close that it just came down to the necessity, again, towards the comms. They needed that win. We said the same thing when we were looking at the scoreboards, that there were only really maybe about like 2, maybe 3 teams that could almost knock at the door and make their way in towards top 4. Team Diverge was absolutely one of them, and they played that last drop to a fine tee.
Oh, yeah.
Clearing out all of Prison Block, getting up towards the high ground, playing to the zone, making sure that they always kept their backs safe, and dealing with all the players inside the gas collectively. Team Diverge were able to win out that lobby with such an impressive kill tally. Again, it comes down to how many kills, how many points Team Flank Tech were able to get for themselves to at least keep that buffer at 4th place.
So we saw Finessence POV there by the end. No
Right.
kills for Finessence, but Ebates had 8, Ryda had 6, and DJ had 5. So they were able to still put together a 28.5 point second place lobby. So that was key for Dadbods to stay in the top 4. I think we can pretty much guarantee that that will stay the case. And the same can be said about Tiberius Khan, who didn't finish top 3 but had 22 total kills. That'll put him at 120. They're absolutely going to win this thing. But the question comes down to what happens after that. The 102.5 for Dadbods should be good, but I think the rest of the tallies are going to be very, very close for really that top 6. Who's going to find those final 2 spots? It's going to be narrow. It's going to be tight.
I'm saying, man, like it's going to be incredibly tight. And you can even hear, like, the players were just trying to do the math the same way that we're trying to, at least wait for the score tallies to come all the way through so we can get the confirmation for you all. But at least we know 2 things are for certain, is that, or I guess 3, is that Tiberius Khan, Goats, and Dadbods, those 3 teams are guaranteed to make it to semifinals. It just, again, comes down to the narrative. Specifically for Flank Tech, who won drop number 1 by a hefty margin, found themselves consistency going into drop number 2, found an early exit at about 5th or 6th place into drop number 3, and an even earlier exit in drop number 4, that it opened up the door of opportunity for Team Diverge to maybe come in towards the top 4. It would be an upset to say the least, Alan, if Intex, Flank, Jelly, and Smixy cannot make it in towards semifinals. I'm telling you.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it looks like most of the reports are pretty much in for the teams that we need. Some squads, I think, probably just said we're out of it. There's a couple teams I don't think submitted their screenshots as of yet. But wow, what a finish that was. And yeah, just about as key as it could possibly be. We can also confirm, for what it's worth, by the way, that Group E, we did report that correctly. That is official. So kind of maybe looking back over that, just with a verbal readout from that first group that we had today. Grev & Co. will finish in first with 94 points. Team Haha, which had 8th in Arbiter, Cine City, and Nofo, they finished at 2nd with 88. Underrated finished 3rd at 83, and then Jackal & Co. finished 4th at 79. Hex Nation missed the cut by 6 kills. Woo. So those are the 4 that we had confirmed from earlier. And hearing from our production that we are ready to reveal at least what we're looking at leaderboard-wise for right now. These are not official scores, but they're pretty darn close, if not at least the placements are correct. And how about it?
Oh, man.
Flank Tech will miss out not just on 4th, but they won't even finish in 5th. Team Diverge will bump from 6th to 3rd with a 96-point tally, nearly even getting above Dadbods in the end with that massive finishing 46-point game.
I'm speechless, which is a new one for me. Is that Team Diverge, I mean, when the going gets tough, they just hit the gas, man. No pun intended to Rebirth or Warzone as a whole. They just found everything. They did everything they possibly could, and everything came through as correct as it possibly would offer itself. To be able to find the kills, get the early loading, find rotational battles, get inside a prison block, wipe goats, and then get top prison block, because it wasn't going to be contested. The team that was normally up there was Tiberius Khan, but they were too busy trying to put on a highlight reel that they were a non-benefactor within drop number 4, already guaranteeing themselves to see semifinals. And Team Diverge, they completely made the right call. They knew that they were players inside the gas. They had to send at least one player. They sent 2 over where the zone was rotating towards. The other 2 players were martyrs, looking to find those last few eliminations, which were, in fact, looking at Dadbods inside of the gas to be able to get the last few kills needed to get themselves inside the top 4. A fantastic call, an amazing finish for them. They have to be absolutely elated.
Oh, absolutely. You would have to figure, especially against the caliber of that lobby, just flat out, to do that to the final 2 teams, secure yourself the win, which, by the way, I would have to do the math, but what, 20, let's do it really quickly. 23 times 1.5, they would have gotten 34.5 points, plus the 50 would not have been enough to finish top 4. They had to win that lobby. Unbelievable. The storylines galore. This is gonna be a really fun event. I'm actually really excited that we did this. I'm actually really pumped to watch this event next week. I think it's gonna be really, really fun. But I will say, I think just kind of looking at the last script compared to this one as we wrap up our final thoughts here proper, the 120 points from Tiberius Khan with only 1 top 3 finish, which happened to be a first place, and then Dadbods with 102.5 total points with a couple of poor lobbies. You better come out frying next week if you're any of those CDL teams, because it's going to take a lot of kills to get through some of these Warzone-centric teams.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, again, you know, when we're thinking about it, you know, you have Scump that ended up winning at least the solo Warzone, the World Series of Warzone tournament. They can play Warzone. That is never a question. They're CDL pros for a reason. Their gunnies are absolutely hot at most times of the day. But it's a different look when you are almost plugging and playing into Rebirth for these juggernauts, if you will, that play this game mode every single day on broadcast, personally streaming it for about 8 to 12 hours, sometimes more. They're going to be coming out absolutely swinging. The way that we've been seeing the chemistry, their decision-making and everything, it's got to be pristine. I wouldn't even call it an upset if you see some CDL teams not even make it out of semifinals.
Well, I think that's pretty much going to be a guarantee. I mean, I think that there's going to be a lot of... Yeah, all those CDL teams are, I mean, let's be honest, like outside of casually playing, there's not a lot of players that I feel like are really putting in as much time, nearly as much as what we're getting out of some of these teams here. But with all that said, that's it. That's all your qualified teams. It all comes down to next week, April the 24th on youtube.com/COD League. That is where all of the broadcasts will be taking place. Both semifinals and the grand finals all happening in the one day. I believe it's the same format, but they're playing 4 lobby drops as well. So it's going to be quick. It's going to be insane. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll see you guys on the broadcast in the chat there. And until next time, make sure you keep holding it down. So long.